Hello there, and welcome to the Reddit Slumber. If you're looking for a cozy place to unwind and let your mind wander, you've found it. We're back with another collection of stories to help you gently wind down. As always, if you enjoy our time together, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Pull the covers up, take a deep breath, and let's dive straight into the stories. Story 1.
I knew something was wrong the first time I noticed my towel. Not missing, not on the floor, just moved. Shifted maybe 6 inches to the left on the rack. Folded differently than how I fold things. I fold in thirds. Always have. It's a nurse thing. You do everything the same way every time, so your hands remember what to do when your brain is too tired to think. That towel was folded in half. And I lived alone. This was last October in a basement apartment in northeast Portland. One of those old converted houses where the landlord lives upstairs and you share a front walkway and pretend that's not weird. My landlord was a man named Gerald Tate, 62 years old, deacon at Mount Olive Baptist Church. The kind of man who waved at every neighbor who brought cookies to the block party, who called every woman under 40 sweetheart in a way that was supposed to feel fatherly. I'd been renting from him for about 8 months when the towel started moving. The first few times I told myself I was being paranoid. I worked 12-hour night shifts in the ICU at Legacy Emmanuel. I come home at 7:30 in the morning with my brain running on caffeine fumes and muscle memory. Maybe I was misremembering. Maybe I had folded it differently. Maybe the cat bumped it. I don't have a cat. But I kept telling myself stories like that because the alternative was something I didn't want to think about. Then, it got worse. Little things. A kitchen drawer left slightly open. The comforter on my bed smoothed out in a way I never smooth it. A faint smell in my bedroom that wasn't mine, something like aftershave and old wood. I started taking photos of my apartment before I left for work. I'd line up my shoes by the door, arrange the pillows a certain way, and leave a pen at a specific angle on the counter. And when I came home, things were different. Not trashed, not ransacked, just touched. Gently, carefully, methodically disturbed. Like someone was living in my space while I was gone and trying to put everything back exactly the way they found it. Almost succeeding. I told my coworker Danielle about it during a break one night. She didn't hesitate. She said, "Buy a camera, today. Don't tell anyone. Don't confront anyone. Just buy the camera and see what you're dealing with." So I did. $29 on Amazon. A little white motion-activated camera the size of a golf ball. I stuck it on my bookshelf between 2 textbooks pointed at my bedroom door. I connected it to an app on my phone. And I went to work. The first alert came at 11:14 in the morning. I was trying to sleep in the on-call room because I picked up a double. My phone buzzed. Motion detected. I opened the app and watched a live feed of Gerald Tate walking into my bedroom. He was wearing a flannel shirt and khakis. He moved slowly, casually, like a man walking through his own house. Because in his mind, I think that's exactly what it was. His house, his property, everything in it belonging to him. He went straight to my dresser. Second drawer. My underwear drawer. He opened it and started going through it piece by piece, folding things up, running the fabric between his fingers. I sat there in that on-call room with my hand over my mouth and my heart slamming against my ribs. I couldn't breathe. I watched him for 4 minutes and 12 seconds. I know the exact time because the app time stamps everything. After the drawer, he walked to my bed. He pulled back the comforter, lay down on my side, pressed his face into my pillow, and stayed there for almost 10 minutes. Just lying there. In my bed. Breathing into the place where I sleep. Then he got up, straightened the comforter, not quite right, never quite right, and walked to my nightstand. I kept my journal there. A spiral-bound notebook where I wrote down things I couldn't say out loud. Thoughts about my divorce. About my mother's death. About a miscarriage I had 3 years ago that I hadn't told anyone about. Private things. Sacred things. He opened it. And he took photos of the pages with his phone. Page after page after page. Reading my deepest grief like it was a magazine in a waiting room. I watched all of this happen in real time, lying on a cot in a hospital basement. Completely frozen. Over the next 2 weeks, I kept the camera running. I collected footage. He came into my apartment 11 times in 14 days. The pattern was always the same. Drawer, bed, journal. Sometimes he'd open my medicine cabinet. Sometimes he'd sit at my kitchen table and just look around, like he was soaking it in. Once, he brought a coffee mug from upstairs and drank from it while sitting on my couch. He always used his master key. He never rushed. He never looked nervous. He moved through my apartment with the confidence of a man who had been doing this for a very long time and had never once considered the possibility of getting caught. I saved every clip. I backed them up to the cloud to a flash drive and to Danielle's email. And then I decided to confront him. I know now that was a mistake, not because of what happened, but because of what he said to me and how close I came to believing it. It was a Saturday afternoon. I knocked on his door. He answered with a smile, called me sweetheart, asked if the hot water was working okay. I held up my phone and pressed play on the most recent video. I watched his face change. Not into fear, not into shame, into something cold and calculating like a chess player, recognizing a move he hadn't anticipated. He looked at the screen for about 10 seconds. Then he looked at me. And he said very calmly, very quietly, "Who do you think people are going to believe, you or me?" I didn't say anything. He kept going. I've been at Mount Olive for 31 years. I built a youth center. I organized the food pantry. Pastor Davis is my closest friend. You've been in this neighborhood for 8 months. You're a single woman who works nights. You think anyone's going to take your word over mine? He wasn't yelling. That was the worst part. He was explaining. Patiently. Like he was teaching me how the world worked. Like he felt sorry for me for not already knowing. You can show that video to whoever you want, he said. I'll tell them you doctored it. I'll tell them you invited me in. I'll tell them you've been erratic, paranoid, making complaints. I'll tell them you're troubled. He paused. And they'll believe me, because they always do. I walked back downstairs. I sat on my couch, the same couch he'd been sitting on, and I cried for an hour. Not because I was scared, because some part of me believed him. Some part of me thought he was right. That a man with 31 years of social capital and a church full of character witnesses could make me disappear. That my word, my evidence, my violation would just evaporate against the weight of his reputation. I believed that for about 3 days. And then I got angry. I called KATU News on a Tuesday morning. I spoke to a reporter named Michelle Acevedo. I told her everything. I sent her the footage. I sent her the timestamps, the backups, the pattern. She called me back within 2 hours and said, "We want to run this." The story aired on a Thursday evening. They blurred my face but used my voice. They showed clips from the camera Gerald entering Gerald in my drawer, Gerald in my bed. They showed the exterior of the house. They named him. By Friday morning, 2 other former tenants had contacted the station. Both women. Both described the same things. Moved belongings. Strange smells. A feeling of being watched that they could never prove. One of them had lived there 6 years before me. Gerald was arrested the following week. Unlawful entry. Stalking. Invasion of privacy. The church released a statement saying they were shocked and saddened and that Gerald had stepped down from his position. Pastor Davis did not return calls for comment. I moved out the day after the arrest. I didn't take the bed, I didn't take the pillows, I didn't take anything he touched, which meant I left with about half of what I own. I'm in a new apartment now. 2nd floor. Deadbolt and chain. I still check the towels every time I come home. I still take photos before I leave. Gerald Tate is out on bail. His trial is in March. His lawyer has already filed a motion arguing the camera footage was obtained without his consent, which means a man who entered my home without my consent, touched my things without my consent, lay in my bed without my consent, and photographed my private grief without my consent is now arguing that his privacy was violated. He told me no one would believe me. 11 million people watched that news segment. I think they believed me just fine.
Story 2.
I retired to Suffolk to live quietly, to tend my garden, walk my border collie, and finally stop counting the days until Friday. After 31 years as a hospital administrator in London, I thought I'd earned the right to a slow life. I was wrong. Because within 18 months of moving to Bramfield, I found myself in the ugliest fight of my life, not against a corporation, not against a government body, but against a 26-year-old dog walker with 3,000 Instagram followers and a smile that could disarm anyone. Anyone except me. Her name was Gemma Holt. She ran a little business called Pause and Wander, and when I first moved to the village, no fewer than 4 neighbors recommended her. "Oh, you must use Gemma," they'd say, like they were sharing the name of a miracle worker. She was pretty energetic, always photographed mid-laugh with a cluster of happy dogs around her. Her social media was a highlight reel of muddy paws, autumn leaves, and captions, like another epic adventure with my furry best friends. She charged £12 per walk, which seemed reasonable. She had availability on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which suited me because those were the days I volunteered at the village library. So I signed Fergus up, my 9-year-old border collie, my companion, the only living thing that had made the move from London with me. And I handed him over to her like it was nothing. For the first few weeks, everything seemed fine. Gemma would collect Fergus at 10:30, bring him back around noon, and he'd seem tired but content. She'd send me a photo each time, Fergus in a field, Fergus by the river, Fergus with his tongue out. I'd reply with a thank you and a smiley face. I had no reason to doubt her. But then things started to change. Slowly. So slowly, I almost didn't notice. Fergus began losing weight. Not dramatically at first, just a slight thinning around his ribs that I attributed to the colder weather and maybe a change in his metabolism. He was 9 after all. Dogs age. But then his energy dropped. He stopped greeting me at the door. He'd lie in his bed and just stare at the wall, and when I'd put his dinner down, he'd eat like he hadn't seen food in days. Frantic, gulping, almost panicked eating. I took him to the vet. Our local vet, Sarah Marsh, ran blood tests and did a full examination. She told me Fergus was underweight, mildly dehydrated, and showing signs of chronic stress. She asked me if anything had changed in his routine. I mentioned Gemma. Sarah's face did something subtle, a tightening around the eyes, a pause before she spoke. She said, "You're not the first person to mention her name in here this month." That sentence changed everything. Sarah couldn't tell me specifics about other clients' veterinary confidentiality, but she told me enough. She said she'd seen a pattern. Dogs coming in lethargic, underweight, with anxiety behaviors. Dogs whose owners all used the same walker. She urged me to look into what was actually happening during those walks. So I did. I bought a small GPS tracker and clipped it to Fergus's collar. I also set up a camera inside my hallway to record the handoff when Gemma brought him home. And then I waited. The GPS data from the first tracked walk made my stomach turn. Gemma had picked Fergus up at 10:30 as usual. According to the tracker, she drove to a property on the outskirts of Halesworth, a rented cottage with a fenced back garden. Fergus stayed at that location for the entire duration of the walk. He didn't move more than 30 meters in 90 minutes. She hadn't walked him at all. She dumped him in a garden. When I checked her Instagram that evening, there was a new post. A photo of Fergus, clearly taken on a different day because the background was summer green and it was now November, with the caption, "Fergus absolutely smashed his woodland adventure today, 12 likes. 4 heart eye emojis. A comment from one of my neighbors saying, "He's so lucky to have you, Jim." I tracked 3 more walks. Same pattern every time. She'd collect the dogs, sometimes 5 or 6 at once, drive them to that cottage and leave them in the garden. No walking, no stimulation, no fresh water as far as I could tell. The dogs just sat there. And then she'd post old photos recycled from better days, and everyone would coo and comment and never question a thing. I also noticed something on the hallway camera. When Gemma brought Fergus back, she never had treats or a lead bag or any of the usual gear you'd expect from someone who'd just done a proper walk. She'd hand him over quickly, flash that smile, and leave. Fergus would walk straight past me to his water bowl and drink for a solid minute. Every single time. I compiled everything. GPS logs, timestamp photos, the vet's assessment, the camera footage. I put it in a folder because that's what 31 years of administration does to you. It makes you a compiler of evidence, and I called Gemma and asked her to come to my house. She arrived on a Thursday afternoon, all smiles, wearing one of her branded Paws and Wander fleeces. I sat her down at my kitchen table and I laid it out. Calmly. Factually. I showed her the GPS data. I showed her the vet report. I showed her the recycled photos. I told her I was terminating her services immediately and that I intended to inform her other clients. The smile didn't just fade. It was replaced by something I wasn't prepared for. Her eyes went hard. Not embarrassed, not ashamed, not even defensive in the way you'd expect from someone caught in a lie. She looked at me like I was an obstacle. A problem to be managed. She said very quietly, "You don't want to do this, Margaret." I told her I absolutely did. She stood up, took her phone out and said, "You have no idea what I can do." Then she left. Within 48 hours, my life in Bramfield became unrecognizable. Gemma posted a long, tearful video on her Instagram and Facebook accounts, claiming that a bitter, lonely retiree in the village was spreading malicious lies about her business because she'd refused to give a discount. She didn't name me directly, but in a village of 800 people, she didn't need to. She described my house. She described Fergus. She said I'd threatened her and that she was shaking and scared for her safety. The comments section was a wildfire. People I'd never met called me a bully, a Karen, a jealous old woman with nothing better to do. One person said I should have my dog taken away. Another said they hoped I'd get what was coming to me. 3 of my neighbors, people who'd recommended Gemma to me in the first place, stopped speaking to me. One of them, a woman named Diana, who I'd considered a friend, left a note in my letterbox that said, "You should be ashamed of yourself." I tried to share my evidence. I posted the GPS data and the vet's report on the village Facebook group. My post was deleted within an hour by the group administrator, who, as it turned out, was Gemma's aunt. I contacted the other dog owners directly. Most of them didn't want to hear it. 2 of them told me their dogs were fine. One woman, a quiet, nervous person named Helen, admitted she'd had similar concerns but said she was too frightened of the backlash to say anything publicly. Gemma had built something more powerful than a dog walking business. She'd built a brand, and that brand was her shield. Anyone who challenged it became the villain. But I am not someone who backs down when animals are suffering. I reported Gemma to the RSPCA with my full evidence file. I reported her to the local trading standards office for fraudulent advertising. I contacted the Suffolk Gazette, and a young reporter named Chris agreed to investigate. I also found 4 other former clients, people who'd quietly stopped using Gemma months ago, who were willing to speak on the record once they knew they weren't alone. Helen was one of them. Her elderly spaniel had lost nearly 3 kilos under Gemma's care. The newspaper story ran in February. It was thorough, fair, and devastating. GPS evidence. Veterinary statements from Sarah Marsh and 2 other vets. Testimonials from 5 former clients. Before and after photos of the dogs. Gemma tried to fight back online, but the tide had turned. People could see the data. They could see the weight loss charts. They could see the timestamps proving the walks never happened. Her follower count dropped. Her Google reviews filled with 1-star ratings. 2 weeks after the article, the RSPCA confirmed they were investigating. A month after that, Pause and Wander quietly disappeared. The Instagram went private, then was deleted entirely. Gemma moved out of the cottage, and last I heard, relocated to Norwich. No charges were filed. That still bothers me. She took money from dozens of people for a service she never provided, and she neglected animals who couldn't speak for themselves, and the system let her walk away. But Fergus is better now. He's put the weight back on. He greets me at the door again. He eats his dinner at a normal pace, without that awful desperation. I walk him myself now every single day, rain or shine. My knees ache and my hip complains, but I don't care. Diana eventually apologized. I accepted it, but something between us is broken and we both know it. The thing I keep coming back to is how easy it was. How easy it was for a charming person with a good camera and a warm smile to build a lie that an entire village believed. How quickly people turned on evidence because it contradicted someone they liked. I'm 73 years old, I've seen a lot. But I'd never seen anything quite as cold as a young woman posting a smiling photo of my starving dog and captioning it with a heart emoji. Fergus deserved better. They all did. And if being the village villain was the price of making sure he got it, then I'd pay it again tomorrow.
Story 3.
I found the spreadsheet on a Tuesday. Not because I went looking for it. Because someone slid it under my keyboard like a confession they couldn't carry anymore. Let me back up. My name is Dana Whitfield, and for 6 years I was the HR director at Vectral Systems, a mid-sized tech firm in Chicago's West Loop. Good company, good people. Or at least that's what I told myself every morning when I badged through the glass doors on the 14th floor. I believed in that place the way you believe in a friend who's never let you down. And then I became the person who let everyone else down because I thought the truth would set us free. It didn't. The truth burned the building to the ground. It started with a proposal I'd been drafting for months. Salary, transparency, full company-wide pay band visibility. I'd read the research, attended the conferences, built the slide deck. Every metric pointed the same direction: transparent pay structures, reduce turnover, improve morale, close equity gaps. I wasn't trying to be a revolutionary, I was trying to be competent. I pitched it to our CEO, Marcus Chen, on a Thursday afternoon in his corner office. Marcus was the kind of founder people described as brilliant but reasonable. 43 Stanford MBA, ran his first startup out of a dorm, sold it for 8 figures. He listened to my pitch with his hands steepled, nodding slowly. When I finished, he said, "Let's do it." Just like that. No pushback, no hesitation. I remember thinking how lucky I was to work for someone who actually cared about doing the right thing. The policy rolled out on a Monday. By Wednesday, my inbox had 17 emails with the same subject line, worded slightly differently each time, but all asking the same question. Why do Jake Hessler, Ryan Moody, and Chris Tran make $187,000 when Lisa Chang, Priya Mukherjee, and Kayla Robinson make $98,000? Same titles, same tenure, same performance ratings. In some cases, the women had better performance ratings, and the men were earning nearly double. I stared at those numbers for a long time. Then I pulled the original offer letters. The gap wasn't a rounding error or a market adjustment. It was structural. It had been baked in from the beginning, compounding year after year through raises pegged to base salary. Someone had decided at some point that these three men were worth more. And nobody had ever questioned it because nobody had ever seen the numbers side by side. Until I made sure they could. I went back to Marcus. This time, the steepled hands were gone. He was leaning back in his chair, jaw tight, phone face down on the desk. "Dana, we need to manage this carefully," he said. I told him I agreed. I told him we should commission an immediate pay equity audit and begin remediation. He nodded again, but this time the nod meant something different. It meant, I hear you and I'm going to do the opposite. Within 48 hours, Marcus hired an outside law firm, not to fix the pay gap, to contain the conversation. The first thing they did was send a company-wide memo reminding employees of their confidentiality obligations under existing NDAs. The language was clinical, but the message was a fist wrapped in silk. Talk about these numbers outside this building and we will end your career. The second thing they did was come for me. Not directly. Marcus didn't fire me. That would have been too clean, too actionable. Instead, I was restructured out of the Salary Transparency Initiative and reassigned to oversee the company's wellness program. Yoga schedules and meditation app subscriptions. I went from shaping compensation policy to ordering fruit baskets. But the real damage wasn't happening to me. It was happening to the people who trusted me. Lisa Chang was the first to speak up publicly. She posted in the company's Slack channel, not the numbers themselves, just a question. Can leadership explain the methodology behind our current pay bands? Reasonable? Professional? Within an hour, her Slack access was restricted to her direct team channels only. Her manager told her it was a system migration issue. Priya went further. She organized an informal lunch meeting with 8 other women in engineering. They talked. That's all. They sat in a conference room and talked about what they'd seen. The next week, Priya's annual review, which had been glowing in draft form, I'd seen it myself, was revised. Her rating dropped from exceeds expectations to meets expectations. One word change that would cost her $15,000 in bonus and tank her promotion timeline. Kayla Robinson, the quietest of the three, didn't say anything publicly at all. She just started updating her LinkedIn. Marcus noticed he had someone monitoring their social media. I found that out later, and it still makes my stomach turn. Kayla was pulled into a one-on-one with the VP of Engineering and told that her commitment to the team was being evaluated. She cried in the bathroom for 20 minutes. I know because I was the one who found her there. Friendships fractured along fault lines I never saw coming. Jake Hessler, one of the overpaid engineers, had been close friends with Lisa for 3 years. They carpooled, their kids played together on weekends. After the numbers came out, Jake stopped responding to Lisa's texts. Not because he was angry at her, but because Marcus had privately told the 3 men that any association with the disruptive elements could jeopardize their positions too. He weaponized their guilt and their fear simultaneously. The worst part, Marcus wasn't doing any of this with malice. I truly believe that. He was doing it with math. Vectrol was 8 weeks away from closing a Series C funding round, $42 million. The lead investor had already flagged organizational stability as a key diligence item. In Marcus's mind, every conversation about the pay gap was a conversation that could crater the deal. Every employee who spoke up was a liability measured in millions. He wasn't punishing people for seeking justice. He was punishing them for threatening his spreadsheet. And then there was Owen Park. 29 years old. Payroll analyst. The kind of guy who ate lunch at his desk and wore the same 3 button-downs in rotation. Owen had been at Vectral for 2 years, and I doubt Marcus could have picked him out of a lineup. But Owen had access to everything. Every salary, every adjustment, every backdated change, the legal team had quietly pushed through in the weeks after the transparency policy launched. They'd been altering records. Not the published pay bands, those were already out, but the internal justification memos. The ones that would show in black and white that the pay disparities had no defensible basis. The legal team was building a paper trail after the fact manufacturing performance differentiations that didn't exist 3 months ago. Owen saw all of it. And Owen made a copy. He came to me on a Friday evening after everyone else had left. He stood in my doorway holding a flash drive like it was a grenade with the pin pulled. "I don't know what to do with this," he said. His voice was barely above a whisper. I looked at that flash drive. I thought about Marcus. I thought about Lisa and Priya and Kayla. I thought about my own career, which was already circling the drain. I thought about the Series C and the $42 million and the 200 employees whose jobs depended on that money. And I thought about the fact that none of those jobs were worth anything if the foundation they stood on was a lie. I told Owen to send it to the Department of Labor and to the Tribune and to keep a copy with his attorney. The story broke on a Wednesday. By Friday, the lead Series C investor pulled out. By the following Monday, Marcus was on a damage control tour, calling it a disgruntled employee leak and promising an independent review. The independent review confirmed everything Owen's spreadsheet showed. Marcus wasn't indicted. He wasn't arrested. He resigned with a golden parachute worth 2 years of salary and a non-disparagement clause that means he'll never have to answer for any of it publicly. The board appointed an interim CEO who quietly remediated the pay gaps over the next 6 months. Lisa, Priya, and Kayla got their raises. They also got settlements. The NDAs were voided as part of a consent decree with the EEOC. Owen Park left the company 3 months later. Took a job at a nonprofit. Makes less money, sleeps fine. I was offered my old position back. I declined. Because here's what nobody tells you about doing the right thing inside a system that rewards silence. The system survives. It always survives. It just sheds the people who tried to fix it and grows new skin. Marcus is advising another startup now. The board members who enabled him sit on 3 other boards. The law firm that doctored those memos still has Vectral's account. And somewhere in some other company in some other glass tower, another HR director is building a slide deck about transparency, believing the way I once believed, that the truth is enough. I hope she's right. But I'd tell her to find her Owen first.
Story 4.
I knew it was going to end badly the moment I saw her carry that dog up the front steps. A Belgian Malinois. 11 weeks old already, leggy and alert, ears too big for its skull, eyes scanning everything like a little soldier dropped behind enemy lines. And she's got it cradled in one arm, phone in the other, filming herself cooing at it while she fumbles with the lock to flat 2B. "Meet my new baby," she whispered to the camera. "His name is Ghost." I'm Dr. Margaret Hale, retired veterinarian. 41 years in practice, the last 15 specializing in behavioral cases. I've rehabbed police dogs, livestock guardians fighting rescues with scars so deep you could fit your finger in them. I know what a Belgian Malinois needs. And I knew, standing at my kitchen window watching, this 26-year-old woman in platform trainers wrestle a working line Malinois puppy through a door frame that this animal was going to suffer. I just didn't know how much everyone else would suffer with it. Her name was Jade Elliston. At Jade Elliston on Instagram. 200,000 followers. Built on a foundation of London flat aesthetics. Morning routines involving matcha and the kind of curated vulnerability that makes people feel like they know you. She'd moved into our converted Victorian terrace in Lewisham about 8 months prior. Pleasant enough at first. Smiled in the hallway. Never took in her bins. The dog changed everything. Within 2 weeks, the howling started. Not barking. Howling. If you've never heard a Malinois in distress, it's not like other dogs. It's this deep oscillating wail that sounds almost human, like a child, calling out from somewhere you can't reach. It would start around 9 in the morning shortly after Jade left for whatever she did all day, and it wouldn't stop. Not for an hour. Not for 3. I timed it once. 7 hours and 43 minutes of near continuous vocalization. I sat in my garden with a cup of tea going cold in my hand, and I listened to every minute of it because I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. The shared garden was the first casualty. Our terrace has a lovely communal space at the back, 6 flats worth of access with a little lawn area, some raised beds that Dennis from flat 1A tends with religious devotion, and a fence that separates us from the row behind. Jade started letting Ghost out there unsupervised. No lead, no recall training, nothing. Within a month, he dug up Dennis's entire potato crop, shredded the trellis, pulled the irrigation hose apart and left it in pieces across the patio. He was bored out of his mind, you understand. A Malinois needs 2 to 3 hours of structured exercise and mental stimulation daily. Ghost was getting maybe 20 minutes of being walked to the nearest patch of grass so Jade could film him looking majestic, then back inside to stare at the walls of a 500 square foot flat. I knocked on her door. Polite. Professional. I introduced myself, mentioned my background, and said I'd noticed the dog seemed to be struggling with some anxiety, and would she like some guidance on enrichment activities. She looked at me like I'd suggested her child was ugly. He's fine, she said. He's just settling in. Then, she closed the door. The next incident was the cat. The Patels in flat 3A have 2 children, Priya, who's 9, and Arun, who's 6. They also had a tabby cat named Biscuit, who'd been part of their family since before Priya was born. One Saturday afternoon in late March, Ghost was loose in the garden again. Biscuit was sunning herself on the wall. I heard the scream from inside my flat. By the time I got outside, Priya was on her knees in the grass holding what was left of Biscuit, and Ghost was standing 6 feet away with blood on his muzzle, tail up panting, completely aroused, not aggressive anymore, but still in that heightened drive state that makes a Malinois look like something from another planet. Jade wasn't home. Of course she wasn't home. I got Ghost back inside her flat using a piece of chicken from my fridge and a sliplet I keep by the door. Then I sat with Priya while her mother called her husband. The cat was dead. There was no ambiguity about it. That night I started the file. I documented everything. Timestamps. Photographs. Sound recordings of the howling with decibel ratings from an app verified against my calibrated meter. Veterinary assessment notes on Ghost's visible condition, which I could observe from the garden, the pacing, the stereotypic circling, the obsessive licking of his own forelimbs that had started leaving raw patches. I spoke to every neighbor in the terrace and got written statements. Dennis. The Patels. Young couple in 4B who worked from home and said the noise was destroying their mental health. Even the quiet woman in 1B who never complained about anything signed a letter. I submitted a formal complaint to the Borough Council's Animal Welfare Team, the Environmental Health Department, for the noise and the RSPCA. I CC'd our local councilor. I included 37 pages of evidence, and then I waited. The council sent someone round. Once. They knocked on Jade's door, she didn't answer, they left a card, and that was the end of their involvement for 6 weeks. The RSPCA said they'd investigate, but were stretched thin, and couldn't give a timeline. Meanwhile, Jade posted a story. Some people in my building are trying to get my dog taken away because they don't like that I have a platform. This is targeted harassment. Ghost is my emotional support animal, and I will protect him with everything I have. 200,000 people saw that. The comments were a flood of validation. Stay strong, Queen. They're just jealous. Report your neighbors for harassment. She started a highlight reel called Ghost and Me that was nothing but carefully edited clips of the dog looking calm and happy lying on a velvet bed eating from a slow feeder bowl she'd clearly just purchased. Engagement through the roof. The Patels started getting anonymous messages on Facebook calling them animal haters. Dennis found a 1-star review on his small gardening business from someone who'd never used his services, referencing the man who wants to kill dogs. I received a letter from a solicitor. Jade had hired a lawyer. The letter accused me of a campaign of harassment and intimidation and threatened legal action if I continued to defame Miss Ellison's character and interfere with her lawful ownership of a registered companion animal. Most people would have stopped. I'm not most people. I've spent 4 decades advocating for animals who cannot speak for themselves. I've testified in court against puppy farms, against hoarders, against people who thought love was enough to justify neglect. I know the law. I know the Animal Welfare Act 2006 inside and out, and I know that what was happening to Ghost met the threshold for unnecessary suffering under Section 4 and failure to meet welfare needs under Section 9, so I escalated. I contacted a journalist at the South London Press who'd covered animal welfare cases before. I provided her with everything. Not the neighbor drama, not the Instagram nonsense, just the evidence. The recordings, the behavioral assessment, the photographs of Ghost's self-inflicted wounds, the veterinary opinion letters I'd solicited from 2 former colleagues who reviewed my documentation. The article ran on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, the RSPCA had fast-tracked their investigation. By Wednesday, an inspector visited with police support and gained entry to the flat. What they found was worse than I'd documented from the outside. Ghost had destroyed the flat, plaster torn from walls, door frames chewed to splinters. Feces in every room because he'd been left so long he couldn't hold it. And the dog himself, when the inspector assessed him, was underweight, hyperreactive, and had worn his canine teeth down from chewing on the metal crate Jade had started locking him in. They seized Ghost that day. Jade filmed the entire removal and posted it sobbing mascara running the full performance. They're taking my baby. They're taking my baby because I'm a woman with a voice and they can't handle it. It got 400,000 views. She gained 30,000 followers in 48 hours. But the council had already issued an improvement notice she'd ignored. The RSPCA had photographic evidence of conditions that couldn't be spun. And when the case went to magistrate's court 3 months later, Jade was found guilty of causing unnecessary suffering and failing to ensure the welfare of an animal in her care. She was banned from keeping animals for 5 years and fined £2,000. She posted about the verdict too. Called it a miscarriage of justice. Started a GoFundMe for her legal defense that raised £11,000 before the platform took it down. Ghost was rehomed through a specialist Malinois rescue to a handler in Kent who works search and rescue dogs. I visited once about 4 months after the rehoming. He was unrecognizable, muscled, bright-eyed, running a scent trail through woodland with his tail carving the air like a metronome, doing exactly what his genetics had been screaming at him to do his entire miserable life in that flat. The handler told me Ghost had taken to the work like he'd been born for it. Because he had been. Jade still has her platform. She rebranded slightly, dropped the dog content, pivoted to healing journey posts, and sponsored wellness retreats. Last I checked, she was up to 280,000 followers. Priya Patel still sometimes sits in the garden and looks at the wall where Biscuit used to sun herself. And I still live next door to Flat 2B. It's occupied by a quiet young man who works in IT and owns no pets. The garden has recovered. Dennis replanted his potatoes. But some things don't grow back.
Story 5.
I sorted letters for 17 years. That's what I did. 6 days a week, I stood at my station in the Royal Mail Depot in Headingley, and I sorted letters into slots. I didn't bother anyone. I didn't ask anyone for anything. I ate my lunch alone in the break room. I walked home the same route every night, and I slept in the same one-bedroom flat I'd rented since I was 23. That was my life. Small, invisible, mine. And then my father died, and I found out he'd left me everything. And my sister decided to destroy me for it. My name is Colin Price. I'm 41 years old. I haven't spoken to my father, Gerald Price, since I was 19. He threw me out after I dropped out of sixth form. Called me a waste. Said I'd amount to nothing. My older sister Denise stayed. She was always his favorite, sharper, louder, more like him. She moved back into the family home in Roundhay when Dad's health started failing about 8 years ago. She cooked for him, drove him to appointments, managed his medications. I won't pretend she didn't sacrifice for that. She did. But what she did to me afterward, that wasn't sacrifice. That was theft, dressed up as grief. I got the call from a solicitor's office in Leeds City Center on a Tuesday afternoon. A woman named Mrs. Hargreaves told me Gerald Price had passed away 11 days earlier, and that I was named as the primary beneficiary in his last will and testament, dated 14 months before his death. He'd left me a portfolio of 6 rental properties across Leeds and Bradford, collectively valued at approximately £2.3 million. I actually laughed. I thought it was a scam. I told her I'd call her back, and then I sat on my bed for an hour staring at the wall. Denise had been left a monthly pension from one of Dad's private accounts. Comfortable, but modest. Maybe $1,800 a month. The will was specific. It was clear. And it had been drafted by a different solicitor than the one Denise had been using for years. I didn't hear from Denise for 2 weeks after the funeral I wasn't invited to. Then she rang me. Her voice was calm. Too calm. She said, "Colin, we need to talk about Dad's will. There's been a mistake." I told her I didn't think there had been. She said, "You haven't spoken to him in 20 years. You think he'd leave you everything." I said I didn't know what he'd think. I barely knew him. But the solicitor confirmed it was legitimate. That's when her voice changed. She said, "I'm not going to let you steal what I earned, Colin. I'll fight this." And she hung up. 3 weeks later, I received a formal letter from a probate solicitor named Marcus Hale representing Denise Price. The letter stated that my sister was contesting the will on the grounds that I lacked the mental capacity to manage a significant estate, and that the inheritance should therefore be placed under a trust administered by Denise. Attached to the letter were photocopied excerpts from what appeared to be psychiatric records from when I was 16 and 17. They described episodes of severe dissociation, paranoid ideation, and a recommendation for inpatient assessment. I read them 3 times. My hands were shaking. Not because they were true, because they weren't. I'd seen a school counselor twice after my parents separated. That was it. I was a quiet teenager. Shy. Withdrawn, maybe. But I was never psychiatrically assessed. I was never diagnosed with anything. Those records had been altered. Someone had taken fragments of real documents, my name, my NHS, number dates that roughly matched, and built a fiction around them. A convincing one. I hired my own solicitor, a woman named Priya Anand, who practiced family and inheritance law out of a small office near the Corn Exchange. She was blunt. She told me that capacity challenges in probate cases were more common than people think, and that if Denise's solicitor could get a judge to order a psychiatric evaluation, the burden would shift to me to prove I was competent. It doesn't matter that you are, Priya said. It matters what a court-appointed psychiatrist writes in a report after a 2-hour session. She also told me something that made my stomach drop. She said the manipulated records, if submitted as evidence, could be enough to get a temporary injunction freezing the estate, meaning I couldn't touch anything while the case dragged on. Months. Maybe over a year. I couldn't sleep. I'd lie awake running through it. 17 years of sorting letters and keeping to myself, and now my own sister was trying to have me declared mentally unfit because our father, the man who threw me away, had decided at the end of his life that maybe he owed me something. I started pulling together everything I could. My GP records, my employment history, references from my supervisor at Royal Mail. 17 years, not a single disciplinary issue. I'd never been hospitalized, never been arrested, never even had a parking ticket. I was boring. Aggressively, relentlessly boring. And Denise was trying to turn that into evidence of dysfunction. Then Priya found something. She'd requested the full provenance of the psychiatric records Denise's solicitor had submitted. The originals were supposed to come from the Leeds Community Mental Health Archive, but when Priya's paralegal followed up, the archive had no record of me ever being a patient. None. The documents Denise submitted had formatting inconsistencies, a letterhead from a clinic that didn't exist until 2004, referencing appointments, supposedly from 2001. Someone had fabricated them. Badly if you knew where to look. But well enough to fool a court clerk on first pass. Priya filed an immediate objection and requested a forensic document examination. The court granted it within a week. But that wasn't the real discovery. The real discovery came when I started looking at the properties themselves. Priya had advised me to get an independent valuation of the portfolio, so I hired a surveyor. When he went to inspect the first property, a terraced house in Hare Hills that should have been generating rental income, he called me and said, "Colin, this property isn't in your father's name anymore." I said that was impossible. He sent me the land registry entry. The property had been transferred to Denise Price 7 months before my father died. I checked the second property. Same thing. Transferred to Denise 8 months prior. The third, 5 months prior. Of the 6 properties in the portfolio, 4 had already been transferred into Denise's name, while my father was still alive during the period when she was his sole caregiver, when his dementia was progressing, when she had power of attorney. She hadn't just been contesting the will. She'd been looting the estate for nearly a year before he died. The will left me everything, but she'd already made sure everything was hollowed out. The capacity challenge wasn't even her real strategy, it was a smokescreen. A delay tactic. Something to keep me tied up in court while she quietly consolidated ownership of property she'd stolen from a dying man. I sat in Priya's office when she laid it all out. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just felt this cold, heavy thing settle in my chest. My sister had watched our father deteriorate, had spooned food into his mouth and changed his sheets. And while she was doing that, she was forging his signature on transfer documents, or coercing him into signing them. Either way, it was fraud. Either way, it was elder abuse. And when the will revealed that Dad had tried in his own flawed and too late way to make things right with me, Denise decided to bury me too. Priya reported the asset transfers to the police. She filed a formal complaint with the Solicitor's Regulation Authority against Marcus Hale for submitting fabricated medical evidence. She applied to the court to have the property transfers reversed on the grounds of undue influence and lack of capacity. Dad's capacity this time, not mine. The forensic document examiner confirmed the psychiatric records were fraudulent. The metadata on the digital copies showed they'd been created on a home computer registered to Denise's address 8 days after the will was read. The capacity challenge against me was thrown out. The judge didn't just dismiss it, she referred the matter for potential prosecution. Marcus Hale withdrew as Denise's solicitor within 48 hours. The police opened a formal investigation into the property transfers. Denise was interviewed under caution. I'm told she cried. I'm told she said she'd earned it, that she'd given up her life for him. Maybe she had. But she hadn't earned the right to erase me. The last time I saw Denise was outside the county court 3 months ago. She was standing by a taxi thinner than I remembered, smoking a cigarette with shaking hands. She looked at me and said, "He never loved either of us, you know." I didn't answer. I just walked past her into the building to sign the papers that put the properties back where they belonged. I still sort letters. I go to work, I come home, I eat my dinner alone. The properties are managed by an agency now. The rent comes in, I could quit. I could move somewhere bigger. I probably will eventually. But right now, I just need things to be quiet again. I spent my whole life being no one, and my own sister tried to use that against me. Tried to convince a court that being quiet meant being broken. It doesn't. It just means I learned a long time ago that the people who are supposed to protect you are usually the ones you need protecting from.
Story 6.
My brother Mark, the lawyer, once charged my parents $850 to draft their will. My mother framed the invoice, hung it right in the hallway next to my high school graduation picture. "Look at that," she'd say to anyone who'd listen. "Our son, the professional. So proud." Last Tuesday, I spent 7 hours on my hands and knees in their crawl space replacing a cracked sewer line that was turning their basement into a swamp. I had to cancel 2 high-paying jobs to do it. My payment was a cold ham sandwich and a lecture about how I should have worn older jeans. That's just how it is. Mark is the one with the degrees, the mahogany desk, the fancy title. I'm the one with the wrenches and the mud on my boots. He's a consultant. I'm free labor. It's not like I'm struggling. Patterson Plumbing and Rooter isn't just me in a van anymore. I've got a fleet of 5 trucks, a crew of 12 good guys, and a contract with half the property management companies in the city. We do 6 figures a month. I own my house. A nice one, too. The kind of house my parents always dreamed Mark would own. The irony kills me. But to them, I'm still just Bobby, the kid who was better with his hands than his books. The one who chose a trade school over a university. The success I've built doesn't register. It's not the times right kind times of success. The whole thing was a low, simmering annoyance for years. A family joke I was never in on. I just grit my teeth, fix their leaky faucet, and listen to them brag about Mark's latest big case. But then they came for my daughter, and the joke wasn't funny anymore. It happened last Sunday. My parents were over for dinner. My daughter Maya, who's 17 and has more brains and heart than my entire family combined, was telling them about her plans after graduation. Her face was lit up, full of that pure, uncut optimism only a teenager has. "I got accepted into the veterinary technician program at the community college," she announced, beaming. "I'll be able to work at the animal shelter helping with surgeries and everything. It's a 2-year certification." My wife Sarah and I were thrilled for her. Maya has wanted to work with animals since she was old enough to say doggy. My mother, however, arranged her face into a mask of polite concern. It's the same look she gets when she sees a stain on a tablecloth. "A technician," she said, drawing the word out like it tasted sour. "Oh, that's nice, dear." My dad chimed in, wiping his mouth with a napkin. "But you're so smart, Maya. Why not a veterinarian, a doctor? Think of the prestige. I don't want to be a vet, Maya said, her smile faltering. I like the hands-on work. The techs do so much of the direct care. That's what I love. Don't sell yourself short, my mother cooed, reaching across the table to pat Maya's hand. We just want you to reach your full potential. You don't want to get stuck in a job where you're just assisting someone else. Her eyes flicked to me for a fraction of a second. And there it was. The unspoken indictment. Asterisk. Don't end up like your father. Asterisk. The guy who assists people with their toilets. The guy with the dirty hands and the wrong kind of success. I saw Maya's shoulders slump. I saw that beautiful light in her eyes dim, replaced by the flicker of doubt they'd just planted there. A hot metallic rage flooded my chest. I wanted to flip the table. I wanted to scream. I wanted to lay out my profit and loss statements next to the pot roast and force them to see what a stuck man's life actually looks like. But I didn't. I just looked at my daughter's face at the damage they'd done in 30 seconds, and I made a promise to myself that this was the last time. The absolute last time they would treat my family, my profession, or my life as second class. The universe, it seems, has a twisted sense of timing. 4 days later, the storm hit. They called it a 100-year flood. The sky fell out. Rivers crested, sewers backed up, and basements all over the city turned into murky swimming pools. For a plumber, it was both a nightmare and a gold rush. My phone started ringing at 3 a.m. and didn't stop. By noon, I was running on pure adrenaline and 4 cups of coffee. Every one of my guys was out on a call, and the dispatch board was still lit up like a Christmas tree. I was in my truck heading to an elderly woman's house where the main line had backed up into her bathtub when my personal cell rang. The screen flashed, "Mom." I knew before I answered. "Bobby, thank God." She shrieked, the panic in her voice so thick I could barely understand her. "The basement, it's a disaster. The sump pump failed, there's at least a foot of water, and it's rising. You have to come right now." I took a deep breath, picturing the chaos on her end. "Okay, calm down, Mom. I'm on an emergency call right now, but I can put you on the list. I might be able to get there in, say, 3 or 4 hours." Silence. Then a cold fury. Asterisk. 4 hours times. "Are you joking, Bobby? The water is ruining everything. Your father's workshop is down there. This is your family." "I know," I said, my voice tight. "And I have about 50 other families in the same boat. Some have it worse. I'm handling a sewage backup right now. I have to prioritize." "Prioritize," my father's voice boomed from the background. He must have snatched the phone. "What is there to prioritize over your own parents? Your brother would never ever treat us this way. When we had that tax issue, Mark dropped everything. He was at our house in an hour. He makes time for family." The hypocrisy was so stunning, so pure, it almost knocked the wind out of me. Mark. The guy who charged them nearly $1,000 for 2 hours of work. The comparison, coming just days after they'd implied my daughter should be more like him and less like me, was the final straw. The camel's back didn't just break. It atomized. "Mark is a lawyer, Dad." "This is plumbing. You can't compare." "The hell I can't," he roared. "We need you. Stop being a selfish jerk and get over here." I pulled my truck over to the side of the flooded street. The rain hammered against my windshield, a frantic drumbeat against the sudden chilling silence in my head. They didn't see a business owner. They didn't see a professional. They didn't even see a son. They saw a tool. A free service they were entitled to. "You know what, Dad?" I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "You're right. It's time I started acting like a professional." I hung up the phone. The rain kept coming down. My work phone buzzed again, another desperate customer. I ignored it. I stared at my personal phone at the contact picture of my smiling parents. A strange calm washed over me. The anger was gone, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. They wanted a professional. They wanted me to be more like Mark. Fine. I opened my company's dispatch app and created a new work order. Customer, Frank Patterson. Address, my childhood home. I keyed in the details for an emergency sump pump replacement and sewage overflow mitigation. Then, I dialed my mother's number. She picked up on the first ring. Bobby, are you on your way? Patterson Plumbing, this is Bobby, I said, my voice flat, and even the one I use for difficult clients. I reviewed a request. Due to the citywide state of emergency, we are only accepting priority jobs. All emergency calls are subject to a fee of $450 per hour with a 3-hour minimum payable in advance. Parts are extra. The silence on the other end was so complete I thought the call had dropped. Bobby, what on earth are you talking about? She finally whispered. That's the standard rate, Mom. But for you, I can offer our friends and family discount. That brings it down to $300 an hour. $900 plus the cost of a new pump. I can take a credit card over the phone and I'll be there in 45 minutes. You want to charge us, my father yelled, his voice a distorted roar. You're going to charge your own parents $900. Yes, I said. The word felt solid. It felt real. That's the price for a professional to drop everything and come fix your emergency. You wanted me to be more like Mark. Well, Mark sends you a bill. This is my bill. I heard my mother start to cry. I don't understand why you're being so cruel. It's not cruel, Mom. It's business. It's the business that pays my mortgage. It's the business that's going to pay for Maya to become a vet tech, a job you seem to think isn't good enough. The shot landed. Dead air. So do you have a Visa or a MasterCard? I asked. This is extortion, my father bellowed. No, Dad. This is plumbing. You're welcome to call someone else. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from anger. It was the terrifying thrill of a locked door finally being kicked off its hinges. I drove to the elderly woman's house and got to work. 30 minutes in, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my dad. A picture of my mother's credit card front and back. I processed the payment right there on my phone, sent them a receipt via email, and packed up my tools. When I pulled up to their house, the scene was exactly as I'd pictured. Water lapping at the basement windows. My dad was standing on the porch, arms crossed, face like a thundercloud. He didn't say a word as I walked past him with my toolbox and a brand new top-of-the-line sump pump. My mother was in the kitchen wiping her eyes. She looked at me, her expression a mix of betrayal and desperation. The basement stairs are this way, she said, her voice brittle. I didn't offer a hug. I didn't say a comforting word. I was their contractor. For the next 2 hours, I worked. I waded through the murky, knee-deep water, the stench of mildew and wet cardboard thick in the air. I ripped out the old dead pump, my hands moving with an efficiency born of 20 years of practice. I installed a new one, replumbed the discharge line to handle the immense pressure, and snaked the main drain to make sure there were no blockages from the overwhelmed city sewer. I was fast, clean, and professional. I was worth every damn penny. When the new pump kicked in with a powerful hum, the sound was more satisfying than a standing ovation. The water level immediately began to drop. I packed my tools in silence. Back upstairs, I washed my hands at the kitchen sink. My parents were sitting at the table watching me. It's done, I said, drying my hands on a paper towel. The new pump has a 5-year warranty. My office will email you the final invoice, including the cost of the pump. It'll show the credit you've already paid. My dad just stared at me. So that's it. You just take our money and leave. That's usually how it works. Yes. I turned and walked out the door. I didn't look back. The cold shoulder lasted a week. A week of silence. I knew they were stewing. I knew the final invoice, which came to $1,328.54, had probably been printed out and dissected a dozen times. On Saturday morning, my mother called. "Your father and I would like you to come over," she said. No greeting, her voice was stiff, formal. "We need to talk." "I'm busy," I said. "Robert." I sighed. "Fine. I'll be there in an hour." When I walked in, they were waiting for me in the living room. On the coffee table next to a framed photo of Mark in his graduation gown was my invoice. It was like an exhibit in a trial. "We want to understand this," my dad began, tapping a thick finger on the paper. "We want to understand why you felt it was necessary to treat us like strangers." I looked from the invoice to their faces set in identical masks of wounded pride. The anger I'd felt in the truck was gone, replaced by a weary resolve. "I treated you like customers," I corrected him. "Because for years you've treated me like free labor. You hang Mark's bill on the wall like a trophy, but you expect me to crawl through your sewage on a Tuesday for a ham sandwich." "That's different," my mother cut in. "He's a lawyer. His work is intellectual. And my work is what I shot back." "What is it, Mom?" "Just a guy with a wrench. Do you have any idea what it takes to run my company? The payroll I have to make? The insurance I carry? The knowledge it takes to walk into a disaster like your basement and make it right in 2 hours?" I leaned forward, my voice dropping. "My hands might get dirty. My jeans might get torn. But the business I built from scratch with these hands is every bit as successful as Mark's law practice. In fact, it's more successful. But you can't see that. You just see the plumber." I looked at my dad. "You said Mark always makes time for you. You paid him $850 to make time. I made time for you too. The only difference is I finally charged for it." Tears welled in my mother's eyes again. "But what you said about Maya, that was cruel, Bobby. To bring your daughter into it." "You brought her into it," I said, my voice hardening. "You brought her into it when you sat at my dinner table and told my brilliant, happy daughter that her dream wasn't good enough. When you told her not to get stuck, assisting someone. You were talking about me. You told my child not to become me." I stood up. The room felt small, suffocating. "So yeah, I sent you a bill. I wanted you to see in black and white what the work you've always taken for free is actually worth. I am a professional. I am a successful businessman. Just like my brother. And from now on, you will treat me like one." I walked to the front hall. As I passed the framed invoice from Mark, I paused. I took my own invoice from the coffee table, folded it neatly, and tucked it into the side of the frame right next to his. 2 bills side by side. One for a will, the other for saving a house. They could look at them both and decide for themselves which one held more value.
Story 7.
The text from my sister Chloe was like a notification from a ghost. We hadn't really spoken, not in a real way, in almost 3 years. Our relationship existed in the form of obligatory holiday texts and the occasional awkward wave across a parking lot if we happened to be visiting our parents at the same time. Asterisk. "You're invited to our engagement party times," the text read, followed by a link to a pastel-colored Evite. My first thought was, times, she invited me, times. My second was, times, why asterisk? Growing up, I was the golden child. I didn't ask for the title, and I sure as hell didn't want it. It just happened. I got good grades without seeming to try. I was good at sports. Teachers liked me. It was effortless, which according to Chloe was the most offensive part. She had to fight for every A, every bit of praise, while I just coasted. Our parents never said it, not in so many words, but the dynamic was baked into the foundation of our family. I was the easy one. She was the difficult one. Resentment was the air she breathed, and I was the one polluting it. So yeah, an invitation to her engagement party felt less like an olive branch and more like a trap. But I went. I put on a clean shirt, bought a ridiculously overpriced bottle of wine, and drove to a bar that was way too cool for me. The place was packed with her fiancé Mark's friends, guys in crisp shirts with perfect hair. Chloe was holding court, a champagne flute in her hand, looking happier than I'd ever seen her. When she saw me, her smile tightened for a fraction of a second before stretching back into place. "Leo, you came," she said, her voice a little too loud. She gave me a one-armed hug that was mostly air. Wouldn't miss it. "Congrats, Chloe." We stood in silence for a beat too long. "Well, mingle," she said, gesturing vaguely at the crowd before turning back to her friends. I was contemplating making a break for the door when a voice cut through the noise. "You look as lost as I feel." I turned. A guy about my age was leaning against the wall nursing a beer. He had the same dark hair and easy smile as Mark, but his posture was looser, his eyes more amused. "Is it that obvious?" I asked. "Only to someone who also spent 20 minutes hiding in the bathroom scrolling through Reddit," he said with a grin. "I'm Alex. Mark's younger and infinitely more charming brother." I laughed. A real laugh. Leo. Chloe's younger and apparently much less social brother. We spent the rest of the night tucked away in a corner talking. It was easy. Frighteningly easy. We talked about terrible sci-fi movies, our shared hatred for cilantro, the soul-crushing despair of working in entry-level corporate jobs. It felt like I'd known him for years. As I was leaving, he grabbed my arm. "Hey, I'm serious about that terrible movie marathon," he said. "Give me your number." I did. And that was the beginning. Over the next year, Alex became my best friend. We went on hiking trips where we mostly just complained about the incline. We spent whole weekends playing video games and ordering pizza. He was the first person I called when I got a promotion, the one who sat with me in the vet's office when my dog got sick. We just fit. The friendship was the most natural, uncomplicated relationship I'd ever had. The lines started blurring so gradually I didn't even notice until they were gone. One night we were on my couch watching another terrible movie. He was laughing at something dumb I'd said, and the sound hit me differently. It wasn't just a friend's laugh anymore. I looked at him, really looked at him, and the thought slammed into me with the force of a car crash times. Oh, I'm in love with him. Asterisk. A week later I told him. He just looked at me for a long moment, then leaned in and kissed me. "Took you long enough?" he whispered. We made it official. Just like that. It was perfect except for one tiny detail. Chloe and Mark's wedding was exactly 1 month away. "We have to tell them," Alex said a few days later. "Starting with my parents. Then Chloe and Mark." I felt a knot of dread tighten in my stomach. Alex's parents, Sarah and David, were Chloe's future in-laws. They were, by all of Chloe's accounts, a tough crowd. She'd spent the last year trying to win them over, describing dinners where she felt like she was being grilled for a job interview. She complained that Sarah was polite but distant, that David only ever wanted to talk to Mark about work. My expectations were rock bottom when Alex drove me to their house for Sunday dinner. I braced myself for a polite, chilly interrogation. Instead, I got warmth. Sarah threw the door open before we even knocked, pulling me into a hug. "Leo, we are so thrilled to finally meet you properly. Alex hasn't shut up about you for a year." David shook my hand firmly, a genuine smile on his face. Any guy who can convince Alex to go hiking is a miracle worker in our book. Come in. Dinner wasn't an interview. It was a welcome. They asked about my job, my dog, my family. Sarah laughed at my stupid jokes. David and I got into a deep, nerdy conversation about old vinyl records. When Alex reached for my hand across the table, Sarah just smiled at us, her eyes shining. "It's just so wonderful to see him this happy, Leo," she said, her voice soft. "Thank you." I felt like I could fly. I was being welcomed into a family, no questions asked, no test to pass. It was everything I didn't know I was missing. The next day, still buzzing, I called Chloe. "Hey," I said when she picked up. "We need to talk. It's about me and Alex." There was a dead silence on the other end. Chloe. "What about you and Alex?" she asked, her voice flat and cold. "We're together," I said, the words tumbling out. "We're a couple. And I just had dinner with his parents, and they were amazing. So nice." Another long pause. Then a short, bitter laugh. "Of course they were," she said, the words dripping with something I couldn't quite place. "Of course they were nice to times, you asterisk." The comment was weird, unsettling, but I was too caught up in my own happiness to fully process it. My mind immediately went to problem-solving mode, the role I'd always played. Asterisk. She's just stressed about the wedding. She's had a hard time with him. Maybe I can help. Asterisk. The idea felt brilliant, a way for us to finally connect. I could bridge this gap. We could bond over them, our shared new family. Listen, I know you said they can be a little tough. I started my voice full of a naive, stupid optimism. But I think I cracked the code. You'll never guess what Sarah and I were talking about. Her favorite Tyler is Octavia Butler. We talked about times, kindred times, for like 20 minutes. She said you'd never mentioned you read her. The silence on the other end of the line was heavy, suffocating. It wasn't an empty silence. It was full of something ugly. Chloe. "You have to be kidding me," she finally whispered, her voice dangerously low. What I was just saying. "Stop," she cut me off. Just stop. Do you hear yourself? Do you have any idea how you sound right now? The warmth from my perfect evening began to curdle in my stomach. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't, she spat, and the bitterness I'd heard earlier came back, now amplified a tidal wave of it. You never do. It's always so times easy, times for you, Leo. You just float through life and everything falls into your lap. Perfect grades are parents' adoration, and now this. You couldn't just let me have this one thing, could you? My head was spinning. Have what? What are you talking about? I'm happy, Chloe. I thought you'd be happy for me. A laugh, sharp and broken, cracked through the phone. Happy you waltz in, meet my future husband's brother, and decide to start dating him month times before my wedding. Of all the people in the world, Leo, you had to pick him. It wasn't a decision like that. It just happened. We're in love. The words felt defensive and weak, even to my own ears. Oh, you're in love, she mocked. How convenient. You finally come back into my life just in time to steal my new family. I have spent year times, trying to get Sarah and David to like me. Every dinner is a test. Every conversation is a minefield. And you go there one time and you're talking about your favorite books. You're the golden child, Leo. You always have been. You're our family's golden child, and now you're going to be theirs too. Every word was a punch. I was breathless, leaning against my kitchen counter for support. That is not what's happening. That's insane. Is it? She shot back, her voice rising to a shout. Is it insane, or is it the same pattern that's been playing out our entire lives? You get praised for breathing while I have to claw my way to get a single ounce of approval. You didn't just meet Alex and fall for him. You saw an opportunity. You saw another stage where you could be the star and I could be the fucking understudy. You think I'm dating Alex to upstage you, I asked, my own voice shaking with a mix of anger and disbelief. I think you don't even have to try, she said, her voice cracking with a pain so deep it momentarily stunned me into silence. It's your factory setting. To win. To be the favorite. You just couldn't stand it, could you? Me having this perfect new family that wasn't obsessed with you. You had to insert yourself. You had to make sure you were their favorite brother-in-law before I even had a chance to be their daughter-in-law. Chloe, that's not fair. That's not true. Goodbye, Leo. The line went dead. I stood there for a long time, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. My heart was hammering against my ribs. The walls of my apartment felt like they were closing in. Her words echoed in my head, twisting my happiness into something ugly and calculated. Asterisk. You saw an opportunity. Asterisk. Asterisk. You had to steal my new family. Asterisk. My first instinct was pure white-hot rage. How dare she? How dare she take this beautiful, simple thing with Alex and paint it as some malicious, lifelong plot against her? I paced my living room, the phone now clutched in a white-knuckled grip. I could call Sarah. I could call her right now and tell her everything. Asterisk. Just so you know, your future daughter-in-law thinks you're cold and judgmental. She sees your family as a prize to be won, and she's furious that I won it first. Asterisk. The thought was intoxicating. It was a perfect swift revenge. I could burn it all down. I pictured Sarah's kind face, her warm smile turning confused, then hurt. I imagined the awkwardness, the tension that would poison every family gathering from now until forever. I would prove Chloe right. I would become the person she accused me of being, the one who wins no matter the cost. I dropped the phone onto the couch as if it were on fire. I couldn't do it. I couldn't be that person. But the doubt was a poison seeping into the cracks of my certainty. Had I, on some subconscious level, been drawn to Alex because he was connected to her? Was this my way of finally getting back into my sister's orbit? Even if it was through a collision, I replayed the last year in my mind. The easy friendship. The slow burn of falling in love. It had all felt so real, so separate from my fractured history with Chloe. But was it? Her accusations had reframed my entire reality. The pure joy I'd felt at dinner with Sarah and David now felt tainted like a stolen treasure. I collapsed onto the sofa, my head in my hands. The anger was gone, replaced by a hollow confusion. I didn't know what was real anymore. I didn't know if my best intentions were just a mask for some deep-seated competitive rot I didn't even know I had. I couldn't trust my own motives. I needed someone else. I needed an outside eye to look at the wreckage and tell me if I was the one holding the bomb. My fingers found my phone. I hesitated for only a second before I pulled up his contact. Alex picked up on the second ring. "Hey, you," he said, his voice warm and happy. It was a stark contrast to the venom I'd just endured. "I was just thinking about you. My mom already texted me twice saying how much she loved you." I couldn't speak. A lump was forming in my throat. "Leo, you there?" "Yeah," I finally croaked. "Yeah, I'm here." "You okay? You sound weird." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I just talked to Chloe." "Oh," Alex said. The single word was loaded. He knew how she and I were. How'd she take it? I let out a short, humorless laugh. Not well. Define not well. I scrubbed a hand over my face, trying to find the right words. She thinks I did this on purpose. Dating you. That it's part of some lifelong competition. She called me the golden child and accused me of stealing you to get to her in-laws. There was silence on his end. Not a heavy, angry silence like Chloe's, but a thoughtful one. I held my breath, waiting for his judgment. "Well," he said slowly, "she's not wrong about the golden child part." My stomach dropped. "What?" "From the little Mark's told me and what I've seen, she's always felt like she's in your shadow. That part at least is real to her." The rest of it, the part where you're some evil mastermind who targeted me to ruin her wedding month, that's bullshit, Leo. I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. You didn't do anything wrong, he continued, his voice firm, leaving no room for argument. We fell in love. It's bad timing and it's complicated as hell, but it's not malicious. Her baggage is hers to carry. It's not your fault she hasn't figured out how to put it down yet. His words were a lifeline. They didn't erase Chloe's accusations, but they anchored me. They gave me a piece of solid ground to stand on in the middle of the earthquake she'd created. So what do I do now? I asked, my voice small. For now, nothing, Alex said. We do nothing. We go to this wedding, we smile, and we don't give her any more ammunition. We just be happy. It sounded so simple. And so incredibly difficult.
Story 8.
The smell of garlic bread filled my tiny apartment, a peace offering to the gods of co-parenting. My daughter Maya meticulously placed the third set of silverware next to the third plate. Her tongue stuck out from the corner of her mouth in concentration, a habit she's had since she was a toddler. At 10, she was all lanky limbs and bubbling fragile hope. Do you think he'll like the pepperoni with pineapple, she asked, adjusting a fork by a millimeter. You said it's his favorite. It times was times his favorite, I corrected, gently pulling the pizza from the oven. People's taste can change, Bug. But I'm sure he'll love it. It had been 8 years. 8 years of silence, missed birthdays, and me duct taping our lives together. Then 3 months ago, Alex had reappeared, full of apologies and sporting a new serious girlfriend named Chloe. He wanted to be a father now. Our therapist doctor. Evans, a woman with unnervingly calm eyes, had mapped out a slow, cautious path to reunification. We'd done parks. We'd done ice cream. All short, supervised public meetings. Tonight was the big one. Level 4 Dr. Evans called it. Dinner at my place. A casual, low-pressure evening to show Maya we could exist in the same room, a family-shaped mirage. It's 5:55, Mom Maya announced, bouncing on the balls of her feet. 5 minutes. I forced a smile. I see that. My own stomach was a knot of acid and anxiety. I trusted Alex about as far as I could throw him, but I was doing this for her. For the hopeful shine in her eyes that I hadn't seen in years. The clock on the microwave clicked over to 6:00. Then 6:01. Maya's bouncing slowed. She stationed herself on the arm of the couch, peering out the window that overlooked the parking lot. Maybe there's traffic, she said, more to herself than to me. Probably, I agreed, busying myself by arranging the salad in a bowl that was way too fancy for a Tuesday night. My phone, lying face up on the counter, remained dark. At 6:15, Maya's posture had deflated. He has my new number, right? You gave it to him. Of course I did, sweetie. At 6:28, I couldn't stand the silence anymore. My thumbs hovered over the screen. The old Melissa would have called. Then called again. Then texted a frantic novel of question marks. The new Melissa, the one who'd spent 2 years and a small fortune in therapy learning about boundaries, typed out a single sterile sentence. Asterisk, me. Hey, dinner's ready. Are you close, asterisk? I hit send and put the phone back down face down this time. A watched pot never boils, and a watched phone never pings. Mom, I'm hungry, Maya whined at 6:45. Her hope was visibly curdling into disappointment. She'd abandoned her post at the window and was now slumped on the couch, flicking through channels with a dull look on her face. Okay, Bug, I said, my voice unnaturally bright. Let's eat. He's probably just running super late. We can save him a few slices. We sat at the table, the third place, setting a gaping hole between us. Maya picked the pineapple off her pizza and lined the pieces up on the side of her plate. We ate in a silence that felt louder than any argument. I tried to talk about school, about her friends, about the dumb reality show she liked, but her answers were clipped one-word responses. Her gaze kept drifting to the empty chair. At 7:30, it was clear. He wasn't running late. He wasn't stuck in traffic. He was a no-show. "Can we just watch the movie?" she mumbled, pushing her half-eaten slice away. "Yeah, of course." We curled up on the couch, a bowl of popcorn between us that neither of us touched. It was some animated thing about a magical quest, but I couldn't follow it. All I could feel was the familiar hot sting of anger building behind my ribs. Anger at him for doing this, and anger at myself for believing, even for a second, that he wouldn't. That he had somehow miraculously changed. Maya was asleep before the credits rolled, her head heavy in my lap. Her face, usually so animated, was slack with sadness, even in sleep. I gently nudged her awake. "Come on, Bug. Let's get you to bed." She stumbled down the hall, half asleep. I tucked her under her unicorn-themed comforter and sat on the edge of her bed, stroking her hair. Her eyes fluttered open, glassy and sad. "He wasn't just late, was he, Mom?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. The lie died on my lips. I couldn't offer her another flimsy excuse. She was too old for that, and she deserved better. "No, baby," I whispered, my throat tight. He wasn't. She just nodded, a single tear rolling down her temple and into her hair. She turned over, facing the wall, and I knew the conversation was over. I walked back into the living room, the lingering smell of garlic and shattered hope hanging in the air. On the table, his plate sat pristine and empty, an untouched can of Coke beaded with condensation next to it. A perfect little shrine to a broken promise. I methodically cleared the table, scraping Maya's pineapple bits into the trash. I rinsed the dishes and put them in the dishwasher with sharp, angry movements. I wiped down the counter, scrubbing at a spot that wasn't there. I did everything I could to avoid looking at my phone. It sat on the counter, a black mirror reflecting the ceiling lights, utterly and completely silent. It was 9 p.m. Then 10. The silence was his answer. It always was. My anger cooled into a familiar, heavy exhaustion. It was the same exhaustion I felt when I was 28 months pregnant and waiting for him to come home from a quick drink with the guys. The same exhaustion I felt when Maya was a newborn, screaming with colic, and his side of the bed was cold. I sank onto the couch, pulling an Afghan over my legs. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. There was nothing left to do. The damage was done. All I could do now was sit in the wreckage and wait for morning, so I could start putting the pieces of my daughter's heart back together. Again. My phone screen lit up the dark room. My heart hammered against my ribs. A stupid, reflexive jolt of hope I couldn't kill. I snatched it off the counter. The screen read times Alex, asterisk. The time was 11:32 p.m. I stared at his name on the screen, a ghost from a life I thought I'd buried. My thumb hovered over the green icon, then the red. I let it ring 3 times before answering, just to prove to myself that I could. "Hello, Alex." My voice was flat, devoid of the fury or tears he probably expected. "Mel, oh my God, I am so sorry." He sounded breathless, panicked. The performance had begun. Work was insane. My phone died. I just walked in the door. "It's almost midnight, Alex." I know. Chloe just got home from her shift. She asked how dinner with Maya went, and my heart just dropped. "Why didn't you call me? You should have called." The accusation landed like a spark on dry tinder. The exhaustion I'd been drowning in evaporated, replaced by a white-hot, diamond-hard clarity. "Excuse me," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "A text I saw. You sent one text. You know what I'm like, Mel. You know I get buried in work. You should have called me. I would have dropped everything." I almost laughed. It was the same script, the same tired excuses he'd used for years. Only the audience had changed. "No," I said. The word was a stone, small and heavy. I'm not doing that anymore. What are you talking about? I missed seeing my daughter because you were too proud to pick up the phone. I am not your keeper, Alex, I said, and the words felt like they were coming from a version of myself I'd been waiting to meet. I am not your personal assistant or your alarm clock. I chased you down for 9 months while I was pregnant with your child. I begged you to come to appointments. I reminded you to be a human being. I am done. Being a father is your responsibility. Showing up is your time's job, not mine to manage. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then his voice came back laced with venom. You're doing this on purpose. You've always wanted to make me look like the bad guy. You don't need my help for that, I shot back. Maya set the table for you. She picked out a pizza she thought you'd like. She waited by the window for almost an hour before she gave up. Then she went to bed crying. So, you can stop this whole panic dad act. We both know you're not upset because you hurt her. You're upset because you got caught. He hung up. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. I just placed it back on the counter, the silence in the apartment feeling less like an absence and more like a relief. The next morning, I called Dr. Evans while I sipped my coffee. I recounted the conversation, my voice shaking slightly as I second-guessed myself. Was I too harsh? Should I have just called him for Maya's sake? Absolutely not, Melissa, Dr. Evans said, her voice a calm anchor. You held a boundary, a perfectly reasonable one. His reaction is about his own failure, not yours. You are his co-parent, not his probation officer. He is a grown man. Let him act like one. I felt a wave of validation wash over me. I did the right thing. Then I made the mistake of calling my mother. Oh, honey, she sighed after I told her the story. You know how he is. He's always been so scattered. Why make things harder? One little phone call would have saved Maya all that sadness. Mom, that's the whole point, I argued, my frustration mounting. He needs to be able to do it on his own. It's the bare minimum. The bare minimum isn't always what's best for the child, she said, her voice dripping with well-meaning, infuriating pity. Sometimes you just have to swallow your pride and be the bigger person. I hung up, feeling like I had emotional whiplash. My hard-won clarity was dissolving into a puddle of self-doubt. Was I just being stubborn? Was my pride more important than Maya's happiness? I was spiraling, replaying every conversation when my phone buzzed with a text. It was Alex. My stomach clenched. Maybe it was an apology. Maybe he'd slept on it and realized... Alex, Chloe's really upset. She thought we were past all this drama. She thinks you're trying to sabotage things between us. You need to fix this. I read the message once. Then twice. My vision narrowed until the words blurred into meaningless shapes. You need to fix this. And just like that, the fog of doubt vanished. It was never about Maya. He hadn't asked how she was this morning. He hadn't mentioned wanting to speak to her or apologize to her or make it up to her. His entire meltdown wasn't about missing a precious level 4 milestone with the daughter he'd ignored for 8 years. It was about the fact that his carefully constructed facade of the reformed doting dad had cracked and his new girlfriend had seen the monster underneath. My one and only job in this new arrangement, I realized, wasn't to co-parent. It was to be his accomplice. To cover his tracks. To text and call and nag and remind him to perform the part he'd auditioned for. And I had refused to play along. A slow, cold smile spread across my face. I looked at his pathetic, blame-shifting text one last time. I saw him for exactly what he was, a child in a man's body, terrified of his girlfriend, thinking he was anything less than perfect. My revenge wouldn't be a screaming match or a scathing reply. It wouldn't be telling Chloe the whole sordid history. It was the quiet, simple act of my thumb pressing down on the screen. Delita? I would not fix this for him. I would let him stand in the rubble of the mess he made all by himself, and I would go wake up my daughter and make her pancakes, just the two of us.
Story 9.
8 years is a long time. It's long enough to build a life, a home. It's long enough to forget who you were before you met someone. Jay and I were just shy of that milestone a couple of weeks from our 8th anniversary. For most of that time, she was my rock. I wasn't an easy guy to be with in the beginning. I had my demons. Booze, mostly. Weed, too. A nasty cocktail of anxiety and depression that I tried to drown every single day. Jay saw me through the worst of it. She held my hand through withdrawals and sat with me in silence when the world was too loud. And I got better. I got sober. I went to therapy, got on the right meds, and clawed my way back to the man I was supposed to be. I got a good job, a promotion. I was stable. I was present. I was finally the partner she deserved. Or so I thought. The cracks started small. Her job was the first one. She worked the night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. For years, I begged her to switch. I miss sleeping next to you, I'd say. I just want to have a normal life with you. She always had an excuse. The pay differential is too good, Wayne. Or, I can't leave my team, they need me. We went to bed at different times, woke up at different times. Our days off rarely aligned. We were roommates who occasionally shared a bank account. Then there was the sex. Or the lack of it. It had been 6 months. 6 fucking months. Every time I tried to initiate, I'd get the hand on the chest. I'm too tired. I have a headache. I just want to sleep. It felt like I was begging for scraps of intimacy from my own girlfriend. Each rejection was a small cut, and after a while, I was bleeding out. The worst part, the thing that really twisted the knife, was how she'd use my past against me. If I brought up an issue, if I expressed that I was unhappy, her go-to move was to question my sanity. I feel like we're drifting apart, Jay. Is this your anxiety talking again? You know, you tend to overthink things. It was brilliant in a sick way. She took the biggest struggle of my life, the one she supposedly helped me overcome, and turned it into a weapon. She made me question if the problems were real or just a phantom limb from my old life. About a month ago, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I sat her down on a rare afternoon we had together. I didn't raise my voice. I just laid it all out. Jay, this isn't working, I said, my voice steady. The schedules, the lack of intimacy, the way you dismiss my feelings. I feel completely alone in this relationship. She just stared at me, her face a blank wall. No tears. No anger. Nothing. I don't know what you want me to say, she finally said, shrugging. I want you to talk to me. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me if you still want to be here. I'm here, aren't I? And that was it. The conversation was over. She got up, put on her headphones, and started cleaning the kitchen. Stonewalled. The silence in our apartment for the next few weeks was deafening. We coexisted, two ghosts haunting a life we'd built together. Then came Memorial Day weekend. She was suddenly cheerful, suggesting we go to a family friend's barbecue on Saturday. It'll be fun, she said. We need to get out of the house. I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay home and figure out how to detonate our lives with the least amount of collateral damage. But I was tired of fighting. Fine, I said. But we're going together and we're coming home together. No splitting up. Of course, she promised, kissing my cheek. It was the most affection she'd shown me in a month. The barbecue was fine. We played the part. Smiled, laughed, talked about our plans for the summer as if we had any. Around 9, I was ready to go. I found her talking with a group of her girlfriends. Hey, you about ready? I asked. She looked at her phone, then at her friends. A silent conversation passed between them. Actually, she said, not looking me in the eye, Amber and Chloe want to go get a drink at the saloon. I'm just going to go for a little bit. I'll meet you at home. My jaw tightened. Jay. We talked about this. You promised. Oh, relax, she said, waving a dismissive hand. It's one drink. I'll be home in an hour tops. Don't be controlling. Controlling. Another one of her favorite words. My old therapist would have called it projection. I just called it bullshit. Fine, I clipped out. I wasn't going to make a scene. I said my goodbyes and drove home alone, the driver's seat feeling bigger than usual. I got home, let the dogs out, and put on a movie, assuming she'd be home soon. I must have fallen asleep on the couch because I woke up with a jolt. The TV was off. The house was dead quiet. My phone screen glowed. 2:17 a.m. She wasn't home. A cold dread washed over me. I checked my phone. No texts. No missed calls. I opened the Find My app, a thing we'd set up years ago for safety. Her icon was there, but the location was stuck. Location not available. My heart started hammering against my ribs. It had never done that before. I told myself it was a glitch, a network error. But my gut, that sober, clear-headed gut I'd learned to trust, was screaming at me that something was wrong. I called her. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. I called again. This time she picked up. Hello. Her voice was wide awake, a little too bright. Music thumped faintly in the background. Jay, where are you? It's after 2. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I totally lost track of time, she said, the words slightly slurred. We left the bar and went back to Sarah's house. We were just talking. Sarah. Her parents' best friend. A woman in her late 50s. A safe answer. Plausible. It almost made sense. Sarah's, I asked, the knot in my stomach loosening just a fraction. Why didn't you text me? My phone died. It just turned back on. I'm so sorry, babe. I'll be home in a little bit, I promise. Okay, I said slowly. Just get home safe. We hung up. I sat there in the dark staring at my phone. I didn't believe her. Not a single word. I kept refreshing the Find My app, my thumb swiping down again and again. Nothing. Location not available. Location not available. Then it loaded. A single blue dot pulsed on the screen. It wasn't anywhere near Sarah's neighborhood on the north side of town. It was 10 miles south in a residential area I'd never seen before, on a street I didn't recognize. My breath hitched. My vision tunneled. It was a physical blow, like all the air had been punched out of my lungs. My thumb hovered over her name. My hands were shaking. I hit the call button. She answered on the first ring, her voice still sickeningly cheerful. Hey, is everything okay? Where are you, Jay? My voice was dangerously calm. I told you I'm at Sarah's. We're just hanging out. No, you're not, I said, the words coming out like ice chips. Your phone says you're at an apartment building on Oak Street. So I'm going to ask you one more time. Where the hell are you? The line went dead quiet. I could hear her breathing, the faint music in the background suddenly cut off. The silence stretched for an eternity. Finally, her voice came back smaller, stripped of all its fake cheer. I'm on my way home. She hung up. I sat on the couch in the pitch-black living room, my phone clutched in my hand. I didn't move. I just stared at the front door, watching her blue dot crawl across the map of the city, getting closer and closer. 30 minutes felt like a lifetime. Each minute was a new circle of hell. Then I heard it. The crunch of tires on the gravel driveway. A car door slamming shut. And finally, the faint jingle of keys at the front door. The lock turned. The door swung open. She stepped inside, shutting the door softly behind her. The click of the deadbolt echoed in the silence. She flicked on the hall light and her eyes landed on me, a silhouette on the couch. She flinched. Jesus, Wayne. You scared me. What are you doing sitting in the dark? I didn't move. You lied to me. She sighed, dropping her keys and purse on the kitchen counter. It was the sigh of a woman burdened by an overbearing partner. A performance. I didn't lie. I told you I was at Sarah's, and then I came home. It's a 10-minute drive from Sarah's house, I said, my voice flat, devoid of all emotion. It took you 35 minutes to get here. Because you weren't at Sarah's. You were on Oak Street. She turned her face, hardening. What are you talking about? Are you tracking me now? That's psychotic. It's called Find My J. We've had it for 6 years. Don't act like this is new. I stood up, my joints cracking. I felt 100 years old. You lied. Just tell me why. I didn't lie, she snapped, her voice rising. Maybe the app was wrong. You're going to trust some stupid app over me, your girlfriend of 8 years. This was her arena. Gaslighting. Making me the crazy one. The old me would have buckled, apologized, and questioned my own sanity. But the old me was dead and buried. You're right, I said calmly. Let's clear it up. Show me your Uber receipt. It'll have the pickup address. Show me it was Sarah's, and I will get on my knees and apologize for ever doubting you. Panic flickered in her eyes. Just a split second, but I saw it. I'm not showing you anything. This is insane. You're interrogating me in my own home at 3 a.m. Show me the phone, Jay. She clutched her purse to her chest. No? That was all I needed. I crossed the room in 2 strides. I didn't yell. I didn't shove. I just gently took the purse from her hands, opened it, and pulled out her phone. She reached for it, but I turned my back, holding it out of her grasp. Wayne, give me my phone. You're acting crazy. Her lock screen lit up with a notification. A text message. Not from Amber or Chloe. From a name I didn't recognize. Asterisk, Chris, you get home. Okay, tonight was amazing. Asterisk. My blood ran cold. My fingers felt clumsy as I unlocked her phone or anniversary date. The irony was a gut punch and tapped on the Uber app. There it was. The trip history. Picked up at 2:51 a.m. The address wasn't Sarah's. It was the exact same house on Oak Street that her location had shown. I turned the phone around and held it up for her to see. I didn't have to say a word. The screen illuminated the truth, stark and undeniable. Her face crumpled. The fake anger, the righteous indignation, it all melted away, leaving behind the ugly, plain face of guilt. Her shoulders slumped. She wouldn't look at me, her eyes fixed on the floor. Jay, I said, my voice barely a whisper. What is this? She finally looked up, her eyes glassy with tears. She hadn't earned the right to cry. Is what it looks like. The 4 words detonated the life we'd built. The shockwave threw me back and I sank onto the couch, the phone slipping from my hand and clattering onto the hardwood floor. The sound was obscene in the crushing silence. I don't remember much of what happened next. It's a blur of garbled sounds and snapshots. Her crying. Me staring at a spot on the wall. Her packing a bag. Me not saying a word to stop her. She left sometime before dawn. I heard the front door close, and then there was just silence. The sun came up. The dogs, confused by the tension, came and nudged my hand. I mechanically took them out, filled their food bowls, and went back to the couch. I called my best friend Mark. "It's over," I said as soon as he picked up. She cheated. He was at my door in 20 minutes with a bag of greasy breakfast sandwiches and 2 large coffees. He didn't press for details. He just sat with me, a silent, steady presence on the other end of the couch while I stared into space and tried to remember how to breathe. He was the one who finally broke the silence. "What's the plan, man?" The plan. My mind, which had felt like a black hole, suddenly started to click into gear. Sobriety had taught me one thing. When your world is on fire, you focus on the next right step. "I need to get an STD test," I said, the words tasting like poison. Mark just nodded. "I have to figure out the lease." We're both on it. The dogs, the furniture, fuck. The sheer logistics of it all was overwhelming. "One thing at a time," he said. "First you call your parents. Then you find a therapist. We'll figure out the rest." That night, after Mark left, I did something I hadn't planned on. I typed out the whole sordid story, every last detail, and posted it on Reddit. I needed to see it in black and white. To have strangers completely removed from my life tell me I wasn't crazy. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Hundreds of comments flooded in. The night shift was the first red flag. Weaponizing your mental health is classic abuser behavior. You're not psychotic, you were being gaslit. Each comment was a brick rebuilding the foundation she had systematically tried to destroy. Reading their words, I realized how many excuses I'd made, how many red flags I'd painted white. The validation wasn't just comforting. It was clarifying. It moved my certainty from 99.9% to a solid cold 100%. There was no going back. I looked around the apartment at the photos of us on the mantelpiece, the stupid throw pillows she'd bought, the life we had curated. It wasn't a home anymore. It was a crime scene. And I couldn't stay. My focus shifted from the pain of the past to the cold, hard mechanics of the future. I had to protect myself. My sobriety. My sanity. I pulled out my laptop and started searching for new apartments. I made an appointment for the test. I found the number for a therapist my doctor had recommended months ago. Each action was a step away from her, a step away from the man who let himself be lied to. The man I used to be was gone. The man I was now had to clean up the wreckage.
Story Teen.
The digital fireplace on the TV crackled, casting a warm, fake glow across Amelia's face. She was curled up next to me on the couch, her head on my shoulder, scrolling through real estate listings on her tablet. This was our nightly ritual. House porn. A masochistic little habit for two people trying to scrape together a down payment in this economy. "Ooh, look at this one, Jack," she murmured, tapping a picture of a tidy-looking colonial with a wraparound porch. 3 beds, 2.5 baths. Look at that yard. We could get a dog. "We could," I said, trying to match her enthusiasm. I pointed at the price. "We could also sell a couple of kidneys." She swatted my arm playfully. "Be serious, the listing says," motivated seller. "We're getting so close. Another year of being super strict. And we'll have the 20%. She said we, and I believed it. Every extra shift I picked up, every time we cooked at home instead of ordering takeout, every dollar that went into the high-yield savings account we'd nicknamed the Escape Pod, it was all for this. For the porch and the yard and the hypothetical dog. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. I glanced at the screen. It was my brother David. Rent time. That's all it said. It's all it ever said on the first of the month. My little sister Chloe was in her second year of a brutal grad school program 3 states away. The stipend barely covered her food. So David and I had a deal. We'd split her rent until she graduated. No discussion, no fuss. It's just what you do. Who's that? Amelia asked, not looking up from a photo of a walk-in closet. Just David, I said, picking up the phone. Time to send him Chloe's rent money. The scrolling stopped. The silence in the room suddenly felt heavy, broken only by the fake crackling fire. I could feel her stiffen beside me. Right. Then she said, her voice a little tight. She put the tablet down. How much is it again? $400 from me, $400 from him. Covers her place. She did the math in her head. I could practically see the gears turning, converting the $400 from helping my sister into things we could have bought for the house. $400, she repeated slowly. Jack, we just talked about being super strict. She used air quotes, mimicking her own words from 60 seconds earlier. That's a big chunk out of the savings budget this month. I shrugged. It's not from the savings budget, it's from my budget. It's a fixed expense, like my car payment. We've always known about it. I know, but it just feels different now that we're so close to the goal, she said, turning to face me fully. Her expression had shifted from dreamy house hunter to concerned financial advisor. Every single dollar counts right now. Your family is great, I love them, but Chloe's a grown woman. Is she working? She's a full-time grad student and a TA, Amelia. She works 60 hours a week for a stipend that's basically minimum wage. This is temporary. It's been a year and a half of temporary, she shot back. That's what, over $7,000 you've just given away money that could be in our down payment fund earning interest. I felt a flash of irritation. It's not giving it away. It's helping my sister. My brother and I decided to do it. It's a family thing. But I'm your family now too, she said, her voice softening, reaching for my hand. It was a classic Amelia move. The velvet glove. Our future family. Doesn't that take priority? This was new. She'd made comments before, little passive-aggressive digs about how it must be nice to have brothers who just hand you money, but she'd never outright challenged it. Not like this. It's not an either-or situation, I said, pulling my hand away to grab my wallet. I didn't like where this was going. Wait, she said, her voice firm. Don't send it. Not yet. I stopped my hand on my banking app. Why? Let's just talk about it more tonight. A real discussion. We can make a budget, look at the numbers, and see if there isn't another way. Maybe she could get a student loan or something. She's trying to get through school without a mountain of debt. That's the whole point of us helping. Just. Promise me you won't send it until we talk, she insisted, her eyes pleading. Tonight. After dinner. Please, Jack. For me. For us. I didn't want the fight. Not then. Fine, I sighed. We'll talk tonight. She smiled, relieved, and leaned in to kiss me. Thank you. She picked the tablet back up, and just like that, we were back to looking at granite countertops. But the mood was broken. The fake fire on the TV suddenly seemed colder. The next day at work was hell. Every email, every phone call felt like an interruption to the argument replaying in my head. Asterisk, our future family. Doesn't that take priority times? The words echoed, twisting something in my gut. Was I being selfish, or was she... Lunchtime came. I sat at my desk eating a sad turkey sandwich and staring at my phone. I thought about Chloe buried in textbooks, probably living on ramen and stress. I thought about the promise I'd made to David, the simple, unspoken pact between brothers to have our sisters back. Then I thought about Amelia's calculated plea. Asterisk. For us, asterisk. It wasn't about us. It was about control. It was about her deciding where my money I earned should go. And my sister was on the wrong side of her ledger. My thumb hovered over my banking app. I heard Amelia's voice in my head. Asterisk. Promise me you won't send it. Asterisk. I opened the app. I found David's contact. I typed in the amount $400. In the memo line, I wrote, "For Chloe. Tell her I say hi." I hit send. The little green check mark that appeared on the screen felt like a deep, clean breath of air. I let a couple of hours pass. Let the transaction settle. I didn't want to hide it, but I didn't want the immediate lunchtime explosion either. Around 3 o'clock, I picked up my phone and sent her a text. I kept it simple, direct. No apology, no excuse. Hey, just sent David the money for Chloe's rent. I put the phone face down on my desk and tried to focus on a spreadsheet. It was pointless. I was just waiting for the detonation. It took less than a minute. My phone didn't ring. It vibrated violently against the wood, a series of short, furious bursts. I flipped it over. A string of texts from Amelia. Are you fucking kidding me? After we talked, you went right behind my back and did it anyway. You have absolutely no respect for me. Another message was coming through. The little bubble with the 3 dots danced on the screen for a long, agonizing moment. Don't bother coming home until you figure out how you're going to fix this. I didn't fix it. I didn't call. I packed a bag with a few days' worth of clothes and went to David's. For 3 days, my phone was a silent, dead weight in my pocket. No calls. No texts. Nothing. It was a silence so absolute, it felt like an answer in itself. On the 4th day, her name finally lit up my screen. A text. Can we talk not on the phone? Meet me at the Daily Grind in an hour. No, hi, no, how are you? Just a summons. I found her at a small table in the back corner of the coffee shop, stirring a latte with methodical, angry little circles. She looked tired, but she'd made sure to put on the full face of makeup, the one that said, "I am winning this breakup." You didn't call, she said, not looking up from her cup. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. You told me not to until I stopped thinking like an idiot, I replied, sitting down. I haven't. Her head snapped up, eyes flashing. So you're just throwing this away? 2 years, our house, over $400. It was never about the money, Amelia. It was about you giving me an ultimatum. She softened her expression, the calculated shift from anger to wounded doe. I was hurt, Jack. You made a decision about times, our times, money times, our times, future without me. I thought we were a team. She reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I moved it to pick up my own coffee. She recoiled slightly, then pressed on. Look, I've had some time to think. And I realize this is bigger than just your sister's rent. It's about our priorities. If we're going to get that house, if we're going to build a life, we need to be aggressive. We need to tackle our debts together as a team. All of them. There was a strange emphasis on the last part. What debts, I asked. My car is paid off. You said you were handling your credit cards. She took a deep breath like she was about to make a grand romantic gesture. My student loans, Jack. They're nearly 6 figures. The monthly payment is significant. It's been holding me back. Holding times, us times back. I was thinking, if you stop the payments to Chloe and maybe we pull back on the house savings for just a year or 2, you could start helping me pay them down. Aggressively. We could knock them out together. The room seemed to shrink. The background noise of the cafe, the hiss of the espresso machine, it all faded into a dull roar. It was so transparent, so perfectly plotted, that I almost had to laugh. The fight about Chloe, the ultimatum, this sad little coffee summit, it was all a negotiation tactic. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice dangerously calm. You want me to stop helping my sister who is struggling to get through grad school so I can pay off the loans for your business degree? It's not just times my times degree, it's times our times future, she insisted, her voice rising. A stronger financial foundation for us. No, I said. The word was flat. Final. I'm not going to stop helping my family. Not for you, not for anyone. Family, she scoffed, dropping the mask entirely. Her face twisted into a sneer of pure contempt. Your family's a bunch of leeches, Jack. Your parents have been bleeding you dry for years with their little emergencies. And your sister is just the latest excuse. They've raised you to be their personal ATM and you're too stupid to even see it. I just stared at her. There was nothing left to say. No argument to win. She'd shown me exactly who she was. I stood up, pulling my keys from my pocket and setting the car key on the table. Get your things from the apartment. Leave my key on the counter. Her face went from rage to panic and back again in a split second. You're breaking up with me after everything I've done for you. No, I said, looking her dead in the eye. You broke up with us when you decided my family's well-being was an obstacle to you getting what you want. I turned to leave. Fine, she shrieked, her voice cracking. People were starting to stare. She grabbed her purse, fumbled inside, and pulled out her own set of keys. Here's your stupid key. She threw them. They clattered hard against my chest and fell to the floor. I didn't even flinch. I just looked down at them, then back at her, and walked out without another word. David helped me move her stuff out. Her friend, a woman who always looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe, directed the operation with silent, pursed lip efficiency. They packed the designer clothes, the expensive skincare, the tablet we used to look at houses on. In under an hour, every trace of her was gone. The apartment felt huge and empty. That night, David brought over a pizza and a six-pack. We sat on the floor of my living room, the TV off for once. You okay, man? He asked. Yeah. I think so, I said, staring at the blank space on the wall where a piece of art she'd picked out used to hang. It's weird. I should be devastated. But mostly I just feel stupid. You're not stupid. You were in love. Was I? I took a long pull from my beer. I don't think so. Not really. I was infatuated with the idea of her. The idea of us. The house, the dog, the whole thing. I looked at him. You know, she leased a BMW A5 series. We're pinching pennies on takeout, and she's driving a car with a monthly payment bigger than Chloe's rent. How did I not see that? You see what you want to see, David said, shrugging. Remember when she tried to convince you that our annual camping trip with Dad was a waste of a vacation day? The memories started flooding back, a highlight reel of red flags I'd painted green. The way she'd complain about me grabbing a beer with my friends after work. The subtle digs about my parents needing help with a car repair. It wasn't about building a future with me. It was about isolating me. It was about making me the sole proprietor of her lifestyle. The student loans. I said the final piece clicking into place. She wasn't looking for a partner. She was looking for a co-signer. A financial safety net. Well, David said, raising his bottle, her net has a big fucking hole in it now. I clinked my bottle against his. The apartment was still empty. But for the first time in a long time, it felt clean. It felt like mine.
Story 11.
Let me tell you about my sister-in-law, Sarah. Most of the time, she's fine. We can do brunch, we can talk about whatever Netflix show everyone's binging. She's married to my brother Mark, and for his sake, I've always made the effort. But Sarah has this thing. It's a compulsion, maybe a sickness. She cannot, under any circumstances, leave my cooking alone. The first time it happened, I'd made a roast chicken. I'm talking a perfect, crispy-skinned, juicy on the inside bird. I'd brined it for hours. I'd made a compound butter with garlic, rosemary, and thyme and stuffed it under the skin. It was a masterpiece. Sarah and Mark came over for dinner. I brought the chicken to the table and everyone was raving. I turned around to grab the gravy from the stove, and when I came back, I saw it. A dusting of bright yellow powder across my beautiful golden brown chicken. "What's this?" I asked, pointing a carving knife at the suspicious sprinkle. Sarah beamed, already reaching for a drumstick. "Oh, just a pinch of turmeric. It looked like it needed a little color. And some extra pepper. Really makes the flavor pop." I just stared. Mark was already piling his plate high, oblivious. "Thanks, Sarah," he mumbled through a mouthful of potatoes. I didn't say anything. I sliced into the bird, the scent of rosemary now fighting a weird, earthy battle with turmeric. It was annoying, but I let it go. It kept happening. I'd make a simple spaghetti bolognese, a recipe passed down from my grandmother, and I'd find oregano and a mountain of garlic powder dumped on top after she'd been in the kitchen. "It just smelled a little flat, sweetie," she'd say with a sympathetic pat on my arm. I made a delicate Thai green curry, carefully balancing the fish sauce, lime, and coconut milk. I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, the whole pot smelled faintly of Italian seasoning. Asterisk, Italian seasoning, asterisk. In a Thai curry. When I looked at her, she just shrugged. It needed more body. Each time I'd try to say something. "Hey Sarah, I'd really prefer if you didn't add things to my food without asking." And she'd give me this wounded, wide-eyed look. "I'm just trying to help. Don't be so sensitive." Mark was useless. "Linda, that's just how she is," he'd say, trying to placate me. "She thinks she's a chef. Just take it as a compliment." A compliment. It felt like a violation. It felt like walking into my house and finding she'd repainted a wall because she didn't like the color. It was my food, my kitchen, my effort. But for Mark, I'd bite my tongue until it bled, smile tightly, and scrape the foreign spices off my portion. This pattern went on for 2 years. A sprinkle here, a dash there. A constant low-grade irritation that I learned to manage by keeping her out of the kitchen as much as possible. Then came the tomatoes. I had scored 40 pounds of gorgeous late-season San Marzanos from a local farm. It was my yearly ritual. An entire weekend dedicated to turning this bounty into a base tomato sauce for the entire year. It's a brutal, thankless, beautiful process. My Saturday was a blur of steam and sweat. I blanched every single tomato, plunging them from boiling water to ice baths until my fingers were numb. I spent hours slipping the skins off the pile of vibrant red flesh growing on my counter. I cored them, crushed them by hand, and filled 5 of my largest stock pots. My whole house smelled like sunshine in summer. I let them simmer for hours, reducing and concentrating the scent, getting deeper and richer. All day Saturday, just prepping. Sunday was for finishing. I milled out the seeds, returning the silky smooth puree to the clean pots. The plan was simple: get the base sauce perfect, then can it. That's the whole point. It's a blank canvas. When I want to make chili in February, I can grab a jar and add cumin and chili powder. When I want to make pasta sauce in April, I can add basil and garlic. You do times, not times, season the base sauce. It's the cardinal rule of canning. By Sunday afternoon, I was exhausted, my back ached, and my hands were stained red. But I was triumphant. 5 massive pots of flawless, unseasoned, perfect tomato sauce bubbled gently on my stovetop. My winter pantry was secured. That's when my phone buzzed. It was Mark. Asterisk. "Hey, can we swing by in 5? Left my drill at your place last week." Asterisk. Asterisk. "Sure, times," I texted back. Asterisk. Doors open. "I'm in the kitchen, don't mind the mess." Asterisk. A few minutes later, I heard the front door open. "Hey, Lynn," Mark called out. "We won't be a minute." He came to the kitchen doorway while Sarah wandered toward the living room. "Whoa," he said, looking at the 5 pots. "You weren't kidding. That's a lot of sauce." 40 pounds of tomatoes, I said, wiping sweat from my forehead with the back of my arm. My weekend condensed into 5 pots. "Smells amazing," he said. He went to the hall closet to find his drill. Sarah reappeared. "Wow, Linda, you've been busy." She walked over to the stove, peering into the pots like a health inspector. She picked up a spoon, dipped it into the nearest pot, and tasted it. Her face scrunched up slightly. "It's just a base sauce, Sarah," I said quickly. "It's not supposed to have any seasoning yet." Right. "Of course," she said, her eyes scanning my spice rack. Mark came back, drill in hand. "Got it. All right, we're out of here." "Talk to you later, Lynn." "Bye, guys," I said, turning my back to stir one of the pots. They were at the front door. I heard their muffled goodbyes and then the click of the door shutting. The whole visit took maybe 3 minutes. I let out a huge sigh of relief. The house was quiet again. Just me and my sauce. I stirred each pot one last time, getting ready to start the canning process. As I moved from the first pot to the second, a strange aroma hit my nose. It wasn't the pure, clean scent of cooked down tomatoes. It was something else. Something familiar and unwelcome. I leaned over the second pot. I saw it immediately. A slick of olive oil shimmering on the surface. Flecks of black pepper. And something else. Green specks. I dipped the spoon in and brought it closer. Dried oregano. And thyme. My heart started hammering against my ribs. No. She wouldn't. I lunged to the third pot, the same thing. The fourth pot, the same. My hands were shaking as I moved to the fifth and final pot, the biggest one. I peered into the deep red liquid. There, swirling in the heat, was a faint, sickeningly yellow cloud. Turmeric. She had seasoned all of it. Every last drop. 40 pounds of tomatoes, 2 days of brutal labor, my entire winter supply. Ruined. She hadn't just added a pinch of salt. She had created her own flavor profile, a bizarre concoction of salt, pepper, olive oil, Italian herbs, and turmeric, and dumped it into my 5 pots of pristine blank canvas based sauce. I stood there, frozen in my steamy kitchen, staring at the oily, herb-flecked evidence of her crime. The rage started as a low hum in my chest and grew into a roar that deafened me. It wasn't about the spices anymore. It was about the complete and utter disrespect. The arrogance. The audacity. Through the window, I saw Mark's car still parked at the curb. He was probably on his phone, Sarah in the passenger seat beside him, scrolling through hers, smugly satisfied with her helpful little fix. I dropped the spoon. It clattered against the floor, splattering red sauce across the tile like blood. Wiping my hands on my apron, I walked out of my kitchen through my living room and pulled open the front door. They were just about to pull away. My voice when it came out was nothing like my own. It was dangerously calm. "Mark." He stopped the car and rolled down the window, a confused look on his face. "What's up?" "Forget something." "Both of you, inside, now." My tone must have cut through the air because he didn't argue. He just put the car in park and got out. Sarah emerged from the passenger side looking annoyed. "Linda, we're kind of in a hurry." I didn't answer her. I just turned and walked back into my house, leaving the front door wide open. I went straight to the kitchen and stood there, arms crossed, waiting. They followed me in. The air was thick with the clashing scents of pure tomato and Sarah's bizarre spice cocktail. "Okay, what's the big draw?" Mark started. Then he stopped. He saw my face. He looked at the 5 pots simmering on the stove. I didn't say a word. I just picked up the spoon I dropped, dipped it into the nearest pot, and held it out. The slick of olive oil caught the light. The flecks of mystery herbs were suspended in the ruined red. Mark looked confused. I don't... But Sarah knew. A smug little smile played on her lips. Oh, that I just helped it along a little. It was so bland, it just needed some taste. That was it. That was the line. All the frustration, all the bitten back comments from the past 2 years erupted inside me. But it didn't come out as a scream. It came out as ice. I completely ignored her. I turned my full attention to my brother, my voice low and shaking with fury. Mark. He flinched. Take your wife and get out of my house. Sarah scoffed. Excuse me, Linda, don't be so dramatic. I was helping. I still didn't look at her. My eyes were locked on my brother's. She is never, ever to set foot in this house again. Do you understand me? She is banned. Permanently. Linda, come on, Mark pleaded, his eyes darting between me and his wife. It's just sauce. It was 2 days of my life, I snapped. It was 40 pounds of tomatoes. It was my winter. And she walked in here and pissed in it because she has no respect. Not for me, not for my work, not for my home. I pointed to the stove. And? You're going to take it with you. What? He asked, bewildered. Get containers. Get buckets. I don't care. You are taking every last drop of this ruined sauce with you tonight. And then you are going to the farmer's market and you are buying me 40 pounds of San Marzano tomatoes. You will deliver them to my doorstep. Now get her and this garbage out of my sight. Sarah finally seemed to grasp that this wasn't one of our usual little spats. You can't be serious. You're insane. It's food. Get out. I finally roared, pointing at the door. Mark, for once in his life, didn't try to placate. He saw something in my eyes he'd never seen before. He grabbed Sarah's arm. Let's go, Sarah. But... Now, he said, his voice firm. He dragged her out of the kitchen. I stood there listening to them rustle around my pantry, finding old Tupperware and empty yogurt containers to ladle my ruined sauce into. The scraping of the spoon against the bottom of my pots was the sound of my heart breaking. An hour later, they were gone. The sauce was gone. My kitchen was quiet, empty, and smelled of betrayal. The next afternoon, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Mark standing alone on the porch. At his feet was a massive cardboard box overflowing with beautiful red, perfect San Marzano tomatoes. He was holding a bakery box in one hand and an envelope in the other. He looked exhausted. Lynn, Did you bring the tomatoes? I asked, my voice flat. Yeah. 40 pounds. And... this. He held out the bakery box and the envelope. It's a Black Forest cake. Your favorite? And a letter. Is the letter from her? No, he said quickly. It's from me. I took the box of tomatoes and slid it inside. I took the cake and the letter and set them on my entry table. Then I looked back at him. Thank you for replacing the tomatoes, Mark. I appreciate that you did the right thing. He looked relieved for a split second. So, are we okay? Can I tell Sarah that... The bandstands, I said, cutting him off. She is not welcome here. Nothing has changed. His face fell. Linda, she knows she messed up. She feels terrible. Does she? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Does she feel terrible for ruining 2 days of my labor, or does she feel terrible that she's finally facing a consequence? He had no answer for that. I love you, Mark. You are always welcome in my home. Your wife is not. That is my boundary. You can either respect it or not. The choice is yours. I closed the door before he could argue. I left the cake on the table, unopened. I had no appetite. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was my mother. I knew this call was coming. Linda, honey. I just spoke to Mark. What is this I hear about you banning Sarah from your house? That's correct, I said, starting to wash the first of the new tomatoes. I wasn't wasting any time. Well, I think that's a massive overreaction. She made a mistake. She apologized. She did not apologize, I interrupted. Mark apologized. He replaced the ingredients. She has done nothing. You're putting your brother in a terrible position. And what about Thanksgiving? You always host. What are we supposed to do now? The manipulation was so textbook, it was almost funny. Almost. Mom, you have a few options, I said, my voice dangerously calm as I plunged a batch of tomatoes into boiling water. You can host. Dad can host. Mark and Sarah can host. You can all go to a restaurant. What you will not be doing is coming here. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. I am not setting myself on fire to keep the rest of you warm anymore, I continued scooping the tomatoes into an ice bath. My home is my sanctuary. If Sarah can't respect that, she doesn't get to be in it. And if the rest of you can't respect my decision to protect my own peace, then maybe you should stay home too. Linda, you are tearing this family apart over some times. Spices, times, she cried, her voice escalating. No, Mom, I said, picking up the first tomato and feeling the skin slip off perfectly between my fingers. I'm not. I'm just cleaning my house. I hung up the phone. I looked around my kitchen at the piles of fresh, unadulterated tomatoes waiting for me. For the first time in days, the air smelled clean. It smelled like my own. And it was worth it.
Story 12.
It started on a Tuesday over takeout noodles that tasted like cardboard in my mouth. I was thinking, Kat said, pushing a rogue piece of broccoli around her plate. We should open our marriage. I choked on my water. You were what? Open it up? See other people? Just for sex? It could be healthy, spice things up. She said it so casually, like she was suggesting we repaint the living room. I stared at her. My wife of 8 years. The woman I'd built a life with, whose every smile I thought I knew. Her face was a perfect mask of calm, but her eyes wouldn't quite meet mine. No, I said. It was the only word I could find. Eli, just think about it. No. Fucking no. What the hell is wrong with you? The calm cracked. A flash of something ugly, annoyance, maybe even anger crossed her face before she smoothed it over. Fine. It was just a suggestion. But it wasn't. It was a starting pistol. After that night, the chill set in. Not a dramatic door-slamming freeze, but a slow, creeping frost that killed everything. She'd roll over when I tried to touch her in bed. Kisses became quick, dry pecks on the cheek. Conversations dwindled to logistics. Did you pay the electric bill? I'll be home late tonight. The late nights became a regular thing. Kat was a senior marketing director, a real shark. I'd always been proud of her ambition. But this was different. Massive project she'd text at 10 p.m. Dealing with the Singapore office. Time zones are a killer. Client dinner ran long. She'd whisper, sliding into bed at 1 a.m., smelling of expensive perfume and wine I didn't recognize. I tried to be the supportive husband. I really did. I'd leave dinner in the oven for her. I'd text her good luck before a big presentation. But a knot of suspicion was twisting in my gut, getting tighter with every flimsy excuse. She was always on her phone, angling the screen away from me, a tight little smile on her face as she typed. One Thursday, the knot became a rock. She texted me at 9 p.m. times, buried in spreadsheets at the office. This Q3 report is going to be the death of me. Don't wait up. Love you. Asterisk. Something snapped. I needed to see her. Maybe if I saw her there, surrounded by files, looking exhausted, this poison in my head would finally drain away. I wanted to be wrong. God, I wanted to be so wrong. I drove downtown, picking up her favorite spicy chicken from that place she loves. A peace offering for my own shitty thoughts. I walked into the lobby of her glass and steel office building. The lights were dim. A lone security guard sat at the front desk, scrolling on his phone. Evening, I said, holding up the food bag. Just dropping something off for my wife, Catherine Vance. 44th floor. He looked up, bored. Nobody's on 44, man. Whole floor's been dark since 6. My blood went cold. No, that can't be right. She's working late. On the Q3 report. He shrugged, already losing interest. Card access logs don't lie. Her badge hasn't been used to enter the building since she left at 5:15 p.m. I stood there like an idiot, the smell of greasy chicken filling my nose. I thanked him and walked out my mind, a blank, roaring static. I drove home, threw the food in the trash, and sat on the couch in the dark. She came in at 1:37 a.m. Hey, she whispered, flicking on a lamp. You're up. Yeah. God, what a night. I think my eyes are permanently crossed from staring at data. She kicked off her heels and stretched. I'm so exhausted. I just looked at her. How was the office? The same. Soul-crushing. She laughed, but it sounded brittle. I'm going to shower. She walked past me, and that's when I knew. She didn't just lie. She did it easily without a flicker of hesitation. She looked right at me and built a fantasy world on top of our life. The rock in my gut was an anchor, now pulling me down into a very dark place. The breaking point came 2 nights later. She was on a FaceTime call with her mom, who'd been sick. Kat was in the living room, putting on her concerned daughter face, all furrowed brows, and soothing tones. Of course, Mom. Just focus on resting. Yes, I'll call you first thing in the morning. She ended the call and set her phone on the coffee table screen up before heading into the kitchen to get a glass of water. It was unlocked. In 8 years, she'd never been careless with her phone. But tonight, she was. My heart hammered against my ribs. Asterisk. Don't do it. Just let it go. You're being paranoid. Asterisk. But I wasn't. And I knew it. My hands were shaking as I snatched the phone off the table. I heard the faucet running in the kitchen. I didn't hesitate. I walked straight into our master bathroom and locked the door behind me, my breath catching in my throat. I opened her Instagram first. My thumb scrolled down to her DMs. My world ended. There were threads with names she'd mentioned in passing. The new interns, Leo, Mark, young, hungry kids she was supposedly mentoring. The messages were a punch to the gut. Flirtatious jokes, coded plans. Then the photos. My thumb trembled as I tapped open the gallery on her phone. It wasn't just selfies. It was her. Naked. Posed. In hotel rooms I didn't recognize. In office bathrooms, there were screenshots of video calls, her face flushed with the kind of excitement I hadn't seen in years. And there were photos of them. Leo with his stupid, cocky grin, shirtless in what looked like her car. Mark, a picture of his bare chest with her hand, our wedding ring glinting, resting on it. It wasn't one affair. It was a goddamn hobby. The sound of my own ragged breathing filled the small room. The open marriage proposal, it wasn't a suggestion. It was a request for a retroactive hall pass for the shit she was already pulling. I scrolled numb, sick, my vision blurring. And then I saw the most recent message from a guy I didn't recognize named Javier. It was a new thread from just this afternoon. Asterisk. Javier. Can't wait for tonight. Asterisk. Asterisk. Cat me either. Longest week ever. I need a release. Asterisk. Asterisk. Javier, the Grandview Hotel. Room 812, 9 p.m. Don't be late. Asterisk. I looked at my watch. 8:15 p.m. I heard her knock on the bathroom door. Eli, you okay in there? I didn't answer. I just stared at her phone, at the address, at the room number. My blood turned to ice. My heart stopped hammering and settled into a low, heavy thud. The anchor in my stomach wasn't pulling me down anymore. It was holding me steady. I airdropped the most damning photos to my laptop in under 30 seconds. Her entire secret life transferred in a silent, invisible stream of data. I put her phone back on the bathroom counter face down. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Eli, everything okay? Her voice was muffled through the wood. I unlocked the door and pulled it open. She was standing there, a little frown of concern on her face. It was the same look she gave her mother on FaceTime. A performance. Fine, I said. The word felt like swallowing gravel. I pushed past her without meeting her eyes. I walked into the bedroom, grabbed my wallet from the dresser, my keys from the bowl by the door. Where are you going? It's late. Out. Out where annoyance was creeping into her voice. Eli, don't be weird. Talk to me. I turned to the door and finally looked at her. I let my eyes sweep over her face, the face I used to think was the most honest thing in the world. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel sadness. I felt nothing. A vast, echoing void. I have nothing to say to you, I said, and walked out, closing the door quietly behind me. The Grandview was one of those new soulless hotels downtown. All chrome and blue lighting. I sat at the bar overlooking the lobby, ordered a double whiskey, and watched the entrance. I drank the first one so fast it burned a trail all the way down. I ordered a second. The ice clinked against the glass, the only sound in my head. At 9:07 p.m., she walked in. She was wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. Her hair was down. She had on the red lipstick she only wore when she wanted to close a deal. She checked her phone, a small, eager smile on her face. She wasn't looking for me. She was looking for room 812. I watched her cross the polished marble floor toward the check-in desk, then reroute to the guest elevators. My legs moved on their own, carrying me across the lobby to intercept her. She was pressing the up button when I came to a stop beside her. Cat. She jumped her head, snapping around. The smile vanished, replaced by a flicker of pure panic. Eli, what are you doing here? Just in the neighborhood, I said, my voice eerily calm. I gestured with my glass toward the glowing button. Going up? Yes. It's a client thing. Last minute. International, she stammered, the lies coming out weak and pathetic. The elevator chimed, the door sliding open with a soft hiss. She didn't move. I leaned in close, my voice dropping to a whisper just for her. Room 812, right, Javier's waiting. Her face went pale, her lipstick suddenly looking garish and cheap. Don't let me keep you. I took a step back. I looked at her, truly looked at her. One last time, a stranger in a black dress. I raised my glass in a mock toast. Have a fun ride. I turned and walked away without looking back. I didn't hear the elevator doors close. I didn't care. I walked out of the hotel into the cold night air and called my friend Mike. My hand started shaking again. "Mike," I said when he answered, "I need a couch." The next morning I woke up on Mike's lumpy sofa with a sandpaper tongue and a skull full of hammers. But my mind was crystal clear. I sat up, grabbed my phone, and began the demolition. Block number, Catherine Vance. Block. Block on Instagram. Block. Block on Facebook. Block. Block on everything. Then I made 2 calls. The first was to our bank. I identified myself, went through security, and gave the order. I want an immediate freeze on joint checking account 7,741 and joint savings account 7,742. Suspected fraudulent activity. The second call was to the best divorce attorney in the city. The one with a reputation for being a goddamn shark. I booked a consultation for that afternoon. I spent the rest of the day at Mike's transferring the evidence from my laptop to a hard drive. Every photo, every message. An entire portfolio of her betrayal. When I walked into the lawyer's office, I didn't have a story. I had a file. He took one look at it and smiled. "This will be quick," he said. The papers were served to her at her office the next day. Kat tried to fight, of course. For 2 weeks, my phone buzzed with calls from unknown numbers and my inbox filled with emails from new accounts she'd created. They started as panicked apologies, then morphed into furious accusations. Asterisk. "This is your fault, Eli. You were so distant you pushed me away." Asterisk. Asterisk. "You're destroying my life over a mistake." Asterisk. Asterisk. "I'm entitled to alimony. You can't just throw me out with nothing." Asterisk. I read them and I deleted them. I never replied. My lawyer handled everything. Her real downfall wasn't the divorce, it was her own arrogance. It turned out that Javier wasn't the only new intern she was mentoring. Leo and Mark, the original 2, found out about each other and about the new guy. Their boyish crush on the powerful older woman curdled into humiliation and spite. They started talking, joking in the break room, showing messages to other interns. Gossip in a corporate office spreads faster than fire. Within a month, the whispers about the senior marketing director who slept with the interns were a roar. Her professional reputation, the one she'd sacrificed our marriage for, was incinerated. HR launched an internal review. She was fired a week later for gross misconduct and abuse of her position. The last I heard from her was a final desperate email that slipped past my filters. She'd lost her job, her friends had ghosted her, and she was demanding I stop the divorce proceedings so she could get her life back on track. She blamed me for everything. For her affairs, for her getting fired, for her public humiliation. I read the email while sitting on the balcony of my new apartment, a small place downtown that was all mine. The legal battle was still churning, but it was just paperwork now. The war was over. I had the hard drive. I had the truth. She had nothing. I deleted the email. I took a sip of my coffee and looked out at the city lights coming on. For the first time in months, I felt the knot in my stomach finally completely unwind.
Story 13.
The timer on my screen hit 0, and the little loading circle spun for what felt like an eternity. My heart was pounding against my ribs. Garth Brooks. Vegas. The +1 residency. Tickets were basically unobtainable, a Ticketmaster bloodbath of epic proportions. Then the screen flashed. Asterisk. Congratulations. You have secured 6 tickets. Asterisk. I actually screamed. My husband Mark came running into the office. Did you get them? I got them. I spun around in my chair holding up my phone like it was the Holy Grail. 6 for all of us. The plan had been brewing for months in our group chat aptly named Vegas Girls Trip. Me and Mark, my best friend Maya and her husband Leo, and my other closest friend Chloe and her boyfriend Ethan. 3 couples, 1 epic weekend. I immediately snapped a screenshot and fired it off to the group chat. Asterisk, asterisk me, asterisk, asterisk we are going to Vegas bitches. The replies came in a flood. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk, no. Fucking way. Catherine, you are a legend. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, OMFG. I'm literally shaking. I love you. My fingers flew across the screen. These tickets weren't cheap. We were talking primo seats, not the nosebleeds where Garth looks like a tiny ant-sized cowboy. I'd put the whole charge on my travel rewards credit card to get the points, but there was no way I could float $2.5 grand. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk. Okay, so total for all 6 was $3,600. That's $1,200 per couple. My Amex bill is due on the 25th of next month. I absolutely cannot carry a balance on this card, so I need the money from you guys before then. Cool. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk, totally cool. You're a lifesaver for putting it on your card. Will Venmo you as soon as possible. Asterisk, asterisk. Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. Yes, of course. Thanks again, Kay. We owe you big time. The relief was instant. The trip was real. The money was sorted. For the next 2 weeks, the chat was a flurry of activity, links to hotels on the Strip debates over which steakhouses were essential outfit planning. It was perfect. 2 weeks before my credit card bill was due, I sent the first gentle reminder. Asterisk. Asterisk. Me, asterisk. Asterisk. Hey guys, just a friendly reminder about the Garth ticket money. The Amex bill is coming up soon. My Venmo is at Catherine Miller. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk. Oh my god, yes. Totally forgot. It's been a crazy week at work. I'll send it over tonight when I get home. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. Shoot me too. Payday is Friday. I'll get it to you then for sure. No problem. I get it. Life happens. Friday came and went. I checked my Venmo. Nothing from Chloe. I checked again Saturday morning. Nothing from Maya either. A week later, with only 5 days until the payment deadline, the panic started to set in. This wasn't a $50 brunch bill I was chasing. This was a serious amount of money. I typed out another message, this time a little more direct. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk. Hey, my credit card payment is due on Tuesday. I really need the $1,200 from each of you for the tickets today if possible. This time only, Maya replied. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk, GK, I am so sorry. Leo and I had an unexpected vet bill for the dog, totally wiped us out. Can I get it to you next week? Next week was after my bill was due. My stomach twisted. I decided to message Chloe privately. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, hey Chloe, just checking in on the Vegas money. The bill is due in a few days, and I'm getting a little stressed about it. The 3 little dots appeared, then disappeared. Appeared, then disappeared. Finally, a message came through. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. Hey, so sorry, Ethan's car needed new tires. We're a little tight. Is it okay if we just pay you back in a couple weeks? I stared at the screen, my blood starting to boil. A couple of weeks, they wanted me to carry a $2.400 balance and eat the interest because of their dog and their tires. Did they think I was a bank? I'm diligent, almost neurotically. So about paying my credit card in full. Every single month. It's a point of pride. It's how I was raised. You don't spend money you don't have. My hands were shaking as I typed my reply to both of them. Asterisk. Asterisk. Me. Asterisk. Asterisk. I was really clear from the beginning that I couldn't float this. The bill is due Tuesday. I need the money by then. I was left on read. By both of them. Tuesday arrived. The payment due date. I woke up with a knot of dread in my stomach. I opened my Venmo app praying. 0. Not a single dollar had been sent. My Amex app glared at me times. Minimum payment due $75. Statement balance. $3,648.19. Asterisked. I felt sick. Humiliated. They had put me in this position knowing full well what the terms were. They had agreed. And now they were just ignoring me. Their silence was deafening. It wasn't an accident. It was a choice. Furious and close to tears, I picked up the phone and called the one person who would understand my financial anxiety, my older sister, Olivia. Hey, what's up? She answered, her kids screaming playfully in the background. I let it all out. The excitement of getting the tickets, the crystal clear payment plan, the lame excuses, the radio silence. And now they just expect me to take a hit on my credit score to pay interest on their times concert tickets because they can't manage their money. I'm so angry I could spit. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Are you kidding me? Olivia said, her voice sharp. That's insane. You know our stepsister Ashley and I were in the queue for those tickets for 2 hours and got shut out. We were so bummed. A light bulb went off in my head. A brilliant, vengeful, problem-solving light bulb. Liv, I said, slowly a plan forming. Do you and Ashley still want to go? To Garth in Vegas? Are you joking? Of course we do. I have 4 tickets that just became available, I said, a grin spreading across my face. They're $600 each. I need the money today. Done, she said without a second of hesitation. I'm sending you my half right now and I'll get Ashley's. Consider them sold. Not even 5 minutes later, my phone pinged with 2 back-to-back notifications. Asterisk Venmo. Olivia paid you $1.200. Note, Vegas, baby asterisk. Asterisk Venmo. Ashley paid you $1.200. Note, Garth, here we come. Thank you, asterisk. The weight that lifted off my chest was monumental. I immediately opened my Amex app and paid the entire balance in full. Then I called Mark. Change of plans. The Vegas trip is now a family affair. A week before the concert, I posted a picture on Instagram. It was a boomerang of 4 glasses clinking together, mine, Mark's, Olivia's, and Ashley's. I captioned it times Final Vegas planning session. Complete T-minus 7 days until Garth Brooks. Asterisk. I was scrolling through the comments smiling when a new message notification popped up at the top of my screen. It was from Maya. My thumb hovered over the bubble, then pressed down. Hey, the message read. Just saw your story, so fun. Are you guys going to the concert twice or something, lol? My fingers went cold. Asterisk. Twice or something, lol. Asterisk. The casualness of it, the breezy little lol at the end, felt like a slap in the face. It was as if the past 2 weeks of my frantic reminders and their blatant ghosting had never happened. I took a deep breath, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Mark walked in, saw the look on my face, and just raised an eyebrow. I held up a finger telling him to wait. I typed out my reply. No emotion. just facts. Asterisk. Asterisk. Me, asterisk, asterisk. No, not going twice. I sold the 4 unpaid tickets to Olivia and Ashley to cover the Amex bill. I hit send. The delivered receipt turned to read almost instantly. The 3 little dots from Maya started typing, disappearing, then typing again. Before she could finish her thought, a notification from the Vegas Girls Trip group chat exploded on my screen. It was Chloe. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, Catherine. What the fuck is Maya talking about? You sold our tickets. And then Maya chimed in, abandoning our private chat for the group audience. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk. I'm so confused. You sold them without even telling us. We had the time booked off work. Leo and I both took vacation days. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. Ethan too. We booked this off months ago when you first got the tickets. This was our big trip for the year. I stared at the messages, my blood turning to ice. Booked time off work, but couldn't manage to send a Venmo. The audacity was breathtaking. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk. I told you both repeatedly that I needed the money before my bill was due on the 25th. I sent reminders. I privately messaged you. You both ignored me. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk. We weren't ignoring you. I told you we had a vet bill. We were going to pay you next week. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. Yeah, what the hell, Kay? You couldn't just wait a few more days. It's not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal. $2,400 was times not that big of a deal, asterisk. The rage that had been simmering for weeks finally boiled over. Asterisk, asterisk. Me, asterisk, asterisk. Not a big deal for you to expect me to go into credit card debt, for you to pay interest on your concert tickets because you had a vet bill and bought new tires. Yes, it is a big deal to me. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk. Oh my God, you're being so dramatic. You could have just paid the minimum payment on the card and held them for us. That's what normal people do. That was it. That was the line. Projecting their own shoddy financial habits onto me as the normal way to behave. The sheer unadulterated entitlement of it sent me into a calm, focused fury. I stopped typing replies. Instead, I scrolled up. All the way up in our chat history, back to the day I bought the tickets. To the giddy excitement and the crystal clear terms. Asterisk, asterisk, me. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Okay, so total for all 6 was $3,600. That's $1,200 per couple. My Amex bill is due on the 25th of next month. I absolutely cannot carry a balance on this card, so I need the money from you guys before then. Cool, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Totally cool, you're a lifesaver for putting it on your card. We'll Venmo you as soon as possible, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Yes, of course, thanks again, Kay. We owe you big time, asterisk. I screenshotted the entire exchange. Then I went to my private chat with Chloe, where she'd given me the new tires excuse and then left me on red. Screenshot. Then I found Maya's vet bill excuse followed by her silence. Screenshot. I returned to the group chat and sent the 3 images one after another without a single word of commentary. The chat went silent for a full minute. I could practically feel them reading the words they'd so casually typed weeks ago, now staring back at them like an indictment. Then Chloe's message came through dripping with venom. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. So that's it. You just screw us over. Some friend you are. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk. A friend isn't a line of credit. I held up my end. I got the impossible tickets. I was clear about the terms. You're not mad at me. You're mad you got caught being flaky and irresponsible, and now there are consequences. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk. This is unbelievable. Leo is looking at StubHub right now, and the cheapest tickets in the shittiest section are $2,000 each. We can't afford that. You've ruined this entire trip. I actually laughed. A short, sharp, bitter sound. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, no. Times you, times ruined the trip when you decided your friend's financial well-being was less important than a Venmo transfer you couldn't be bothered to make. You expected me to risk my credit score for your fun. The only thing that's unbelievable here is your nerve. Mark was reading over my shoulder, his arm around my waist. He gave my shoulder a squeeze. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, fuck you, Catherine. That was the last message I read. I clicked on the group chat name, scrolled to the bottom. My finger hovered over the bright red button. Asterisk. Leave group. Asterisk. I tapped it. A small pop-up asked for confirmation. Asterisk. Are you sure you want to leave Vegas, girls? Trip. Asterisk. I tapped. Leave. The chat disappeared from my screen. It was gone. Just like that. Years of friendship erased with a click. I felt a pang of sadness, but it was buried under an avalanche of relief. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Olivia. Asterisk, asterisk, Olivia, asterisk, asterisk, everything okay. Saw your post, then Maya and Chloe both unfollowed you. I took a picture of my face smirking, holding up a glass of wine Mark had just poured me. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, everything is perfect. Better, actually. Get ready for Vegas. The drama-free version.